Let me, at the very outset, welcome all the participants at all the centers and the people in the studio to this fourth day of this 5 days program on communication skills, the ICT based program on instructional planning and delivery module 4. Today we are going to have very interesting sessions. Up to now we have covered the basic concepts related to communication, that is listening, speaking, reading and writing. Now we are heading towards the more of the application part of the communication skills in various areas. In line with that, we are going to have a session in the morning on resume writing, which will be taken by Mrs. Suditi Jindal. You already know her because she has already engaged a session on writing skills on Tuesday afternoon. Then followed by her lecture, there will be another session on non-verbal communication, which will be taken by Dr. S.P. Bedi of this institute. And in the afternoon, we're going to have a session on presentation skills. Well, friends, without wasting any further time, I will request Mrs. Suditi Jindal to kindly start the session. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. I hope I'm audible. And without wasting any more time, let's begin with today's session. Today, in this session, I'm going to cover what is the difference between a biodata, a CV, and a resume, and how to draft an effective resume. And I especially want to cover up how to draft an effective resume because as teachers, I want you to guide your students to write a resume when seeking a job, especially during a campus placement drive. It is a very popular notion and a misconception rather that biodata, CV and resume are interchangeable terms and all three mean the same thing. However, it's not so. These are the details of the session coming up for you on the PPT slide. I am going to take up a sample resume towards the end. So while I'm speaking out how to format a resume, it's not clear, but once you're able to see it in the written form, it will be much clearer to you. Let's begin off with biodata. Biodata, the term, stands for biographical data. And now since it is made up of two smaller words, bio and graphical, that means bio means that it involves details, physical details of a person or an individual for whom the biodata is being written or who has written the biodata, and graph means over a period of time. So biographical data, though is an archaic term which was used for resume and CV, but it means something very different. A biographical data is a document about a person's credentials which include almost 80% of personal details and only 20% of professional details. It includes details on nationality, religion, ideology, and various physical attributes like height, weight, identification marks. A biographical data runs into 5 to 6 pages, and sometimes companies give up the format according to which the individuals have to fill in all their details while seeking a job or a position in any organization, even an academic position. We can compare a biodata to the form that is filled out by students while seeking admissions to universities abroad, wherein they have to answer a few essay type questions as to why are they fit for this institution and why do they want to study in this institution. Now, when a company or an organization seeks answers to such questions, then the ideology or the psyche behind this is that the company is going to place, or the organization is going to place a lot of responsibility on that individual or person. So obviously, a biodata is required when seeking, mostly it is required when seeking a job or employment for higher levels in an organization, like the levels of an ambassador in a government organization or top level management in a corporate sector. Then the company or the organization wants to be very clear as to what are the ideologies, what are the viewpoints, attitudes, thinking that would encourage a person to take a decision under a certain situation, especially a crisis situation. So they want to be very clear what is a political ideology, religious ideology. Biographical data, that is why since it is so detailed, it runs into a number of pages, 5 to 6 pages. In India, a biodata is usually used when we are applying for the position of a research scholar or for an academic scholar, or when we are applying to high level government posts. Having covered this, I want to give out the details on the slide. If you've missed out anything that I've spoken, you can take it down from the slide about the biodata. Alright, let's move ahead. Let's come to CV. Now CV is a Latin word which means course of life, and CV stands for curriculum vitae. Now curriculum again means course, vitae means life. Now curriculum vitae or CV is usually made by freshers, but then we feel that it is not the apt document which should be made by freshers when they are seeking employment, especially employment through campus placement, because a CV, albeit lesser in length than a biographical data containing lesser personal details, yet it has almost 60% of information as personal details and 40% as professional information. And a CV is a document that gives an idea, or that gives a summary of that gives a detailed description of a person's general skills, not specific skills, whereas the work experience at the various positions at which a person or an individual has worked, what were the key responsibility areas at such positions or job titles, and because of that, what were the skills that were practiced or made use of. So it is very general in nature. A CV runs into 3 to 4 pages, 3 pages at the most of an A4 size sheet. It is lesser than biodata. Both the biodata and the CV go on increasing in length, or the information in them in a biodata it goes on increasing, and in a CV it goes on changing, refining as a person progresses in his or her professional career. A CV is basically used when we want to when you have a work experience of at least 5 to 6 years. So even though freshers prefer to make a CV, they want to give out all the details of their academic qualifications and whatever work experience if ever they've had, yet it is not advised for freshers because it is very general in nature. It does not give out any specific skills. Why am I stressing here upon specific skills again and again? That we'll come to know. Okay, now if you had a look at the slide for CV, you would have noted down the points what a CV is. Now let me come to a resume, and that is the main point that we are going to discuss today. I hope to have differentiated between a biodata and a CV here. Let's move on to a resume. Now resume is a French word which means summary or gist. Now when I say summary, then automatically what comes to my mind is something which is concise, which is not very descriptive. So a resume is not more than one side of an A4 sheet, preferably it should be just 3/4. And if you have to spill it over, if you've just filtered out all the information and yet it is spilling over, then not more than 1/4 of the next sheet. And it's written on an A4 size sheet. That means summary. So how do I summarize what has been my qualification, what has been my job experience? Okay, now any individual can make n number of resumes according to his or her requirement. Now this requirement is determined by the job title for which the person is applying. How do I separate one job title, the requirement for one job title from the requirement of the other job title? Now that depends upon my research and analysis done for that job title that allows me to enlist the skills required for this job title. Now these are called specific skills that I was talking about when I was saying we are going to write a resume, when we are going to write a CV. It just lists out, like a CV just lists out general skills, but a resume lists out specific skills. So whenever I have to apply for a particular job title, I list out specific skills. Now let us look at the situation as a person or an individual or a fresh pass out from a vocational institute who's entering the job market as a new product in the market. So whenever a new product is launched in the market, there's a lot of advertising for it. But since it's a new or a fresh product, or even if it's an old product, but there's a change. There's a change in what it was offering earlier, in the nature of the product from what it is offering now, or in the nature of the product now. So even if there is a change or there is a gap in somebody's professional career, then also resume is used. Whenever I make an advertisement for any product, I have to make it very catchy. It has to hit the nail on the head, but it does not have to be very tedious and long. Otherwise, the audience or the people who are reviewing that product, let me just call them your customers, who are going to be the prospective employers of the individual, they are going to be turned down. It is going to be a tedious task for them to go through that entire advertisement. So my advertisement has to be very short, conveying all the relevant points so that the consumers to buy me, to pick me up. There is no reason for them to refuse me, and I have to word out my advertisement in such enticing and attractive terms. So that is the psyche or the ideology behind writing a resume. Having done that, I want to come to 3 types of resumes that usually are there, and which resume is most pertinent for freshers, which you as teachers should be guiding your students to draft for themselves once they are seeking admission. Okay, let's look at the slide here first. I have given on the slide the meaning of resume. It should not, the length of this much. Ideally, it should not be more than 3/4 of an A4 sheet. Okay, one side of an A4 sheet, but if you really have to, those credentials you really have to spill over, then I said 1/4 more of the other sheet. It highlights only specific skills. That I also told you, how do we identify specific skills, and I'm going to tell you as to how freshers can have those specific skills. Job titles के लिए कैसे freshers, how can they reflect it in their resume? That also I'm going to tell you. But let me first differentiate between the types of resume. The next point on the resume slide is it is customized to target the job profile. So that brings me down to the point that an individual can have n number of resumes, any number of resumes throughout his or her professional career, unlike a biodata or a CV. Okay, let's move ahead. The first type of a resume is a functional resume. Functional resume focuses more on the functions or the skills acquired. Now, how the skills acquired can be for a professional who is changing the industry, or a professional who is seeking a change in the career path. For such an individual, the skills acquired can be reflected through the job experience. Whatever job profile or whatever positions that that individual held in previous jobs must have allowed him to practice and utilize certain skills in his or her personality. Now those skills got developed as a result of these opportunities, and these skills, though were peripherals, not the core skills required for that job, are now going to come handy or going to become core skills for the other type of job that he or she is seeking. For example, somebody who was in the advertising agency and was a copywriter with them, for that person, writing skills are very important, are very well developed. But suppose that person is now leaving the advertising industry and entering, let's say, an industry where dealing with the marketing of products, but not really advertising. Therein, that person or that individual who was earlier a copywriter can use his writing skills to make presentations, to give out public circulars or give out public documents for communication by the organization. So that is how that skill, which was a core skill, can be used here, or which was a peripheral skill, can become the core skill in another job. But suppose it is a fresher who is seeking a job in an industry. Now, fresher does not have any work experience. Then how will that fresher claim to possess very well developed skills required according to that job title? Now, this fresher, albeit the fresher has not had any opportunity to work, that is why he or she is a fresher, but that does not mean that there's a dearth of skills. It is just that there's to manifest those skills. But that does not mean that there's a lack of skills in that individual. to bring to fore or to highlight the presence and very well developed and enhanced presence in the personality of that individual, we can cite examples from other activities in which that individual indulged or in which that individual participated during his or her academic career. Then that person has definitely got very well developed communication skills, has got very high level of confidence, has got, sorry sir, okay, debates and what I mean here by public speaking and oration is debate and declamation contest. If that student has participated in these kind of activities, then that student has a very high level of or high degree of developed communication skills. Suppose a student has been an NCC cadet. Now, being an NCC cadet requires a very high level or high degree of organizational skills, teamwork, and team building skills and attitudes. These can be reflected in the functional resume of the student. So that is how a fresher can make a functional resume. Alright, let me go on further and describe, outline the details of a functional resume. The first point is, in a functional resume, that it focuses mainly on skills. Then it highlights the transferable skills. Now what I did here when I gave an example, that due to or by virtue of having participated in activities like declamation and debating, the student possesses very well developed communication skills. This is a transferable skill. So suppose if the job for which the student is applying is in the marketing position, is in the marketing department of some organization, therein also very good or very well developed communication skills are required. Albeit there is a lack of experience, work experience in a fresher, but still the high level of communication skills developed by participating in these organizations can be reflected and they can be shown as relevant or pertinent to the job profile for which the student is applying. So that is how when I relate one skill developed by virtue of having participated in one activity which can be applied to the job is called transferable skill. So if I do not have work experience, I definitely have skills which can be reflected as transferable skills in my functional resume. And this is what students as freshers are going to make. This type of resume is what the students as freshers are going to make, and that is how you're going to guide them also. Alright, let's move on to the next point about a functional resume. That is, it is used by freshers or when there's a gap in employment. This I elucidated upon when I began what a functional resume is and why is it used when there's a gap also. When there's a gap, that means that you've been out of touch with the industry, yet those skills are there in you. You might not have been driving for a while now, but that does not mean that once you learn driving, you've forgotten driving if you've not practiced it. You may be a little out of finesse, yet once you start driving, you will be as good as new. The same thing applies here, and that is what you do, that is what you reflect when you make a functional resume. Alright, let's move on to the second type of resume, which is a chronological resume. A chronological, as the name suggests, is according to time. Now, how is it according to time? It gives a comprehensive work history. So this is definitely not for freshers. For if you had a work experience of 2 to 3 years, you are not capable of making a CV. Because for making a CV, you should have at least a work history of 5 to 6 years. So what kind of a resume or what kind of a print document, advertisement document do you make for yourself to advertise your skills, your experience, your education qualifications? It is this type of a document which is called a chronological resume, which gives a very comprehensive detail of your work history. The next point about a chronological resume is how do you list out the details. The details are described as position, the job title where you worked, which was that organization that you worked in, and just give the name of the city. You don't need to give the entire address, and the length of employment. The length of employment can be from this month in this year to this month in this year. Do not need to give specific days or dates. The next point in chronological resume is that it is in reverse chronological order. Although it is mentioned chronological, yet it is in reverse chronological order, which means that with the most recent employment coming at the top, followed by the one just before it, and then so on and so forth. A resume is always in the reverse chronological order, whereas a biodata and a CV are in the chronological order, that is, in the way that you gathered momentum or you gathered experience in your course of life. Let's move on to the third type of a resume, which is a hybrid resume. Now, hybrid resume, as the name suggests, it is a combination. So it combines the elements of both the functional resume as well as a chronological resume. So when you want to show that there has been a lot of growth in the career over a short duration of time, by being at various positions in various industries, not companies, various industries. At one time you were in the hospitality industry, and the other time you were in the publishing industry, then you were in the advertising industry, then you were in chemical engineering industry, something to do with oil refining. Then there has been a vast experience. Different types of skills have been developed by virtue of this. So there is not only a great deal of job experience here, but also a lot of development taking place in terms of skills. So this kind of growth in career is reflected through hybrid resume, which not only focuses on the skills, both transferable and specific skills, but which also focuses on the work history, the comprehensive work history, because an individual was working in different industries in a short duration of time. Next point, as you will see on the slide about the hybrid resumes, focuses on skills but also includes job titles, because I want to show my growth, I want to reflect my growth, that I have had a taste of every job or most of the jobs or many industries during my professional career. Now, having described all three types of resumes, we have come to the conclusion that for our students, and especially when I'm applying for a specific job title, it is best to make a functional resume. A functional resume focuses mainly on skills, specific skills. Now, how do you advise your students to start about making a functional resume? Now, functional resume, first I need to list out that for a specific job title, what are the skills required for this post, or to come up as an efficient employee at this post. How will I list out those top 5 or let's say top 6 or 7 skills for that job title? I will have to do my research and analysis. I will go to the website of the company. I will find out about their hiring policy. I will find out about their current work culture. I will find out what is it that encourages them, or what is it that decides for them to give promotion or applaud an employee already working with them. Who is occupying the present job title? What were his or her key responsibility areas, and what other activities besides the key responsibility areas was this individual looking after? Now, the website may not be sufficient to supply me with all this information. So how do I get to it? There would be a phone number also given on it, some contact information would be given, like an email ID, phone number, whatever. So encourage your students to find out through those contact information, to email at those contacts, to call up at those numbers, to find out about that job title. Find out whatever they can. If they can locate some inside sources in that organization, please try to gather information. Then come up with a list of skills required of at least 5 to 6. Now, when the students come up with the list of 5 to 6 skills required for that job title, they would realize that definitely not all the 5 or 6 skills are present in them. Yet to come across as the most preferred and the one fitting that bill of that job profile, the student has to reflect those skills in him or her. So out of those 5 or 6 skills, maybe 3, maybe 2, maybe 4 skills can be pointed out or can be located or determined in the individuals, in the student's profile. And although those skills can be identified, yet those skills are not the strongest skills of that student. However, this job requires that these skills should be there. So whenever we are writing a functional resume, in such a case, we will first list out the most important skill required for that job title and also present in that student's personality, although it is not the strongest skill of that student. So the work for writing a resume begins from research and analysis for that job. I told you how to do the research and analysis and why do we do the research and analysis. Okay, now resume, any kind of resume is divided into 3 sections. Having done that, having got that information, having had a very fair idea as to which are the skills that I'm going to reflect, I need to format my resume now. Now a resume is broken into 3 sections. The first section is the header. The second and the most important section and the most detailed and lengthiest section of the resume is the main body, and the third section is the footer. Both the header and the footer are equal in length, occupy 10% of the space, and the rest of the 80% of the space on the A4 size sheet is occupied by the main body, which will have all the details. Now what do I list out in my resume or in the header? Let's come to that, but first let me tell you that a resume is always written in the third person. As a student or as an individual, I can probably word my objective and the declaration using the first person, using I. But everywhere else in my resume, I cannot use the first or the second person because the resume has to come across as very objective and a very brief document. Why am I stressing upon brevity again and again? Because especially during the campus placement drive, when the recruiter has to go through hundreds of resumes, for him to come across a resume which runs into pages or a document which runs into pages, he or she is going to find it tedious, and that is going to be the first reason and most probably the only reason for a person or a candidate for being rejected, because his or her document, which is not a resume but a CV, is not going to be read. So long, who's going to spend so much of time? इसको छोड़ देते कोई और तो होगा ही. With a shorter resume, whom I can locate or identify from such a thick stack of resumes. So that is why I am stressing that a resume has to be very brief. It has to be written in the third person so that it comes across as objective, because I am going to eulogize my skills. I am going to praise my skills. If I go on emphasizing on possession of certain skills using the first person, then I will come across as blowing my own trumpet, being very pompous. That is also going to be a big turn off for the recruiter. So that is why I have to use the third person to come across as a very objective. Then the content in a resume is a balance between responsibilities and accomplishments which show the development and enhancement of certain specific skills required for the target job. Now, as the target job will change, the same way the resume will change, because the skills required would be changed. So I'll draft a separate resume for that different job profile, because I have to reflect different skills now in my resume. So that is why when I say that a person can have any number of resume during his or her professional career, this is the reason when I say that. Let's move ahead. Which is the information that is included in the header part, 10% base space part of the resume. The header carries all my personal information. The personal information is I'm a product. Now, please remember, whenever an advertisement is being aired or a print advertisement comes for any product, I do not give the title advertisement, neither on the screen, neither on the print ad. So I do not definitely want to write resume on top of my resume. What comes in place of that? The name of the product. So we will not write resume, and please also, you are not going to write CV or biodata also for your CVs and biodata. Do not write resume, but write your name very clearly in the middle of the header portion of your resume. Now how do I write it? We have to select a font style which has to be very formal in nature, like New Times Roman or Arial Black, and it has to be the same font style, has to be in 2 sizes, that is it. One for the bolder print and one for the finer print. For the bolder print, I can have somewhere between 13, 14. For a finer print, I can have somewhere between 10.5, 11, 11.5. For finer print, the font size can be these two. It can be this. But the font style will remain just one throughout the entire resume. where I will write my name in the center of the header. Once I show you the prototype of a resume, it will become clearer to you. I will write it in bold in the bigger font size, but I will not underline my name. I will not even put titles like Mr., Ms., Mrs., Miss, Engineer, Doctor. Nothing I'm going to write. I'm just going to write my first name and surname. If I have a middle name, then it will also come there. It's up to you if you want to write only the initials of the middle name or the entire middle name. That's up to you. Now, having written my name in the center of the header section, I will then give my contact information. How do you contact me? The easier it is for you, the more convenient it is for you, the more are my chances of being inducted and contacted. I will give that information towards the right side of the sheet. Now there is an imaginary margin that is aligning the text towards the inside of the right margin. The text is not aligned towards the other end of the right side of the sheet. Once I let me just bring up that for you. Let me bring up a sample resume for you so that while I'm speaking, it's easier for you to understand. If you look at your screens now, you will see that I've put up on display a sample resume of a student who had come to us. Now the name is in the center. The name is in the center of the header section. There is a proper line going across the entire sheet of the page to separate the header from the rest of the page. As we scroll down, I'll show you how the footer is also segregated and how are the other items placed on the main body. After having written the name in the center in bolds, I have aligned my contact information here. If you will notice that on the right side, the text is not aligned. The text is aligned on the inside of the right side and it's an imaginary line. I give my contact address. Now here the student was staying in the hostel, so the student has given that address. Please do not give your permanent residence address or residential address where you are not available to take or receive the mail and reply to it. Let it be that address where you are going to receive the mail and reply to it or correspond in reaction as early as possible, as soon as possible. So it does not need to be your native address. Then after that we give our mobile number or phone number. Please again be very careful as to give out that mobile number or phone number or landline number which you are going to answer, and it is going to be answered at most of the times during the day. Ensure that. Do not give a phone number or a landline number that nobody is going to answer, or somebody who does not know how to attend that call, an official call coming from an organization that is seeking to employ you. Then it is going to be a turn off. If somebody who does not know or somebody who is illiterate answers that call, then it is not going to serve your purpose. Maybe it is going to work to your disadvantage. After having given your phone number, you need to give out your email address. This should be directed very clearly to your students. That students usually are very stuck up on certain email addresses. We've come across students who have made very weird email addresses like Anurag007 just because they could not find their an email address on a certain website with their names or initials, so they've come up with such tags as 007 or maybe their birth dates 10.7, something like that. Now that is very absurd for an employer. Why is this number here? Why is 007 here? If I read out somebody's email address and it has 007 in it, then I feel that this person has a very high opinion of himself or herself. Maybe he or she is not as highly qualified, or maybe there is not as many, as much of knowledge and wisdom in that individual to justify using such a tag like 007, just like equating himself or herself with James Bond. So please avoid these kind of email addresses for professional usage. Also advise your students to make separate email IDs for professional purposes and personal purposes, because it's easier to manage to correspond when we have separation of emails. Suppose you are not getting your email, you are not getting an email address on the website that you want. Usually students have cited that on Gmail it's easier to download heavier files. That is why we come up with such weird email addresses. So let it be for certain, use Gmail for your personal email. And if you, for professional reasons, you have to download some heavy file, then only in that case, very sparingly, refer a client or a customer to send the mail to that personal email. But otherwise, make a professional email address on any other website. We have Ymail, Rediff Mail, Yahoo Mail, so many other websites that are providing an email account. But please do not make it on Facebook. Do not let your mail be directed for professional purposes on a Facebook account. Also, another thing that you should be careful for while making an email is, while coming up for a name with a name for your email address, is not to use the digit or the letter O after your name or initials, like 01 or O1 or whatever. Because in any font style, when you're typing out your resume and this information is written in the typed format on your resume, 0 can be read or can look as O, and O can look as 0. So if I, as an employer or as a recruiter, send out an email to that email address misreading O for 0, 0 for O, then the mail is not going to reach you. It is going to reach a wrong address. So please refrain from using this digit or letter 0 or O. Having done that, having completed your contact information, on the right side, the left side, if you will notice, of this document is empty. Why is this empty? Because this is left for a photograph. We do not advise you to stick a photograph or even have a photograph printed on your resume. It should not be done because it can work otherwise. On a CV, of course, you will have your photograph. If you will see, there are no outlinings. There is no ostentatious decoration of the page because we are saving space. We are not going to waste space by making outlines or borders on a resume. Having done that, let's come to the main body. Now, we've left this space empty just in case the recruiter or the employer wants you at the time of interview to attach your photograph with here, then that space is left empty. If you have to attach your photograph with your resume, it is being asked, then please attach it with a clip. Do not staple it because while removing the photograph, they might tear your resume. Then to any third person who does not know, might look like a waste paper. Your resume might look like a waste paper and might end up in the waste bin. And do not stick it on for the same reasons. Attach it with a paper clip. Now, photograph, passport size photograph also has very strict directions. Please do not get a photograph clip when you're coming back from a wedding function or some personal function. You think that you're looking very presentable, you're looking very nice, handsome or beautiful with lots of makeup, but that is not how you would turn up for work. So your photograph, at least the torso portion of your photograph or the portion visible in the passport size photograph, that is to till your shoulders, should have you dressed up and ready as if you're going to go to your work environment, going to go to your office. It should be that way. You should not get it clipped while coming back from a gym or anything. Now, sometimes you get recruited or companies require passport size photograph and they might want you to make, or they might make for you your passport. Please remember that the photograph for a passport is always against a white background. So have the same photograph in ample copies, like 16 copies or 32 copies. Carry 8 copies out of those in your folder which you carry for the interview without the photograph on the resume, but the same photograph against a white background, just in case the company or the organization wants to make a passport also. So there's the same photograph which is coming on the resume and the same that is coming on the passport. There is no difference in that. And if you are being absorbed by an MNC, people there, foreigners might have a difficulty in recognizing or associating the face with the person if the photographs are different, because we tend to look different in different clothes and against different backgrounds. So to avoid that confusion, please have one photograph which is also eligible for your passport. So let's come to the main body, which is the first item here placed is objective. Now I said that your resume is your print advertisement. Excuse me. Yes, sir. That I'll cover when I say that most of the space I'll give in and top also. Okay. Now, objective here is, like I said, that the resume is a print advertisement for a product. Objective is the tagline. Now, the tagline has to be very catchy and it has to be pertinent also. So, your objective can be worded in a way that that the highest skill or the most important skill required for that job title, which is also reflected in your personality, is mentioned here. But most of the students or most of the individuals while seeking job make the mistake as to what they want from the organization and may or may not mention how they want to contribute to that organization. As a customer or a buyer, I am not interested in picking up a product that is not going to help me. So why would an employer or a recruiter want to recruit an individual or a student who does not offer me something concrete to add to my production activity, rather is seeking something from me, albeit personal growth, albeit learning new techniques and through innovation and creativity. Though I know these are indirectly going to help my organization, but first, the most important thing is how the objective should be worded. The objective should always be worded by using the most important skill that you can identify according to the job profile in your resume, mentioning it here. And if you cannot do that, if you are unable to do that, at least first word out what you offer to the organization and also what you seek from the organization. If you just word your objective as to what you offer to the organization, what you not seek, then you're going to come across as a dishonest person, probably a liar, because you're not going to work for charity. What is your interest in this job? That has to be mentioned to balance out for you to come across as an authentic person. But to first mention what you want makes you a very self-centered and a selfish person. Okay, so that is why objective is very important. It should not be preferably more than one sentence in length. But if you have to make another sentence, which we actually strongly advise against, let it be a very small sentence, almost like a phrase. But however, you can make a long sentence separated using commas and semicolons. Let's look at this objective which the student has worded here. Aim to utilize to its complete potential my unique skill set. Now here this student has claimed unique skill set, because as we'll read the resume, we realize that really the student had lots of skills and it was a very rare combination to come by. And this is a very catchy phrase that is put initially. And thereby contributing to the, separated with the semicolon and continuing the same sentence, thereby contributing to the growth of the organization and achieving personal growth. So using these skills, I want to contribute to the growth of the organization. So since they are so varied, he has not specifically highlighted one area. He's shown that he can be, he can be put to work, he can be utilized anywhere or at most places in the production activity, and he would definitely contribute to the growth of the organization there, and he realizes that this would lead to his own growth as well. Okay, that is how an objective should be worded. If you will notice the placement of the text, also in the header section, and also when you scroll down, you will see that the placement of the text is very sparingly done. The objective, the rest of the line or rest of the space after the word term objective has been left empty. That is how it should be done. I should provide as much open and plain space to the interviewer or the recruiter as possible in my resume, so as to put on his or her personal comments then and there. During the course of the interview, there might be so many points that the recruiter, the comments that the recruiter would come up with. So I've given that space in the header section also, when I've left the space empty for the photograph. I've left the space empty after objective, after skills and award. And later on also you'll see there will be a lot of space left for the recruiter to give his or her personal comments, so that these comments, valuable comments, are not lost. There are so many candidates that they are going to interview, and for every candidate they would have a very particular comment, and then later they are reviewing, after the spate of interviews, they are reviewing whoever they've shortlisted. These comments will come in handy on zeroing down on which is the or who is the most preferred candidate. So for me, it is my responsibility to ensure that it is most convenient for them to select me. So I ensure that convenience also by very sparingly putting up my text on the resume also. And for the same reason, we keep the footer of a resume empty. When I scroll down, you will notice that. Okay. Now I said that a functional resume focuses more on skills. So that is why I place my skills and awards here. Otherwise, skills and accomplishments for a working person with an experience, for a professional with an experience of 1 or 2 years. Here earlier or prior to my educational qualifications, because as students passing out from an organization after doing certain course, their educational qualifications are going to be same. At the most, there is going to be a difference in trade, like mechanical, civil, or electrical engineering, so on and so forth. But the level of education is going to be same. So I don't need to, grab attention with giving out redundant information to the recruiter. I want to place the information which is very relevant in deciding me or picking me up for the job profile prior and first and earlier on my resume. Having given my objective, I then come to skills and awards. And this is where I list out my transferable skills as a student. Okay. Skills and award. Now I will not use the first person, it has to be in the third person. So this is how, since there were many skills, so in this case we have clubbed the skills, developed by engaging in various activities. But not every student would be so enterprising and fortunate enough to have an exposure to so many activities as this student has had. So in that case, we can take up one skill developed by participating in this activity. Well, for example, having or possessing exceptional logical reasoning and analytical skills by virtue of participating in chess competitions or chess championships at the national and the state level, and having won awards in this year. So by just participating in one activity like chess competition, I can transfer a skill from there and highlight it here. I have to first place the skill, first I have to make the assumption that this skill is there in me, in my personality, and I have to then later in the same sentence provide an evidence for it. Otherwise, anybody can randomly assume or make assumptions that such and such skill is present in me. Any Tom, Dick and Harry can come up and say, this skill is there in me, this skill is there in me. But the recruiter or the employer is only going to believe the person or the individual who can offer evidence for it. Although you do not have evidence in the form of job experience, but you should be able to offer evidence in the form of participation, even if not winning prizes or awards, even participation, because that also participation activities also requires the utilization of such skills. So please be very careful as to which skills and awards you can mention here. If you think and you know that you are very good with computer-aided designing, but you have not done such a course, you do not have any kind of evidence like designing the cover of the school magazine or designing posters for any competitions or workshops being conducted in your institute or organization as evidence for your skill of computer-aided designing, please do not mention it here. But you know that this is a very strong skill. You know that you're very good at it. Somehow you did not get the opportunity. Somehow you were careless about it. Then what do you do? Then that is why when we come towards later, we have a section wherein we put down other interests. So that also has to be dealt with very carefully. We'll do that later. I'm going to read out another sentence from the skills and awards for you, just to elaborate upon as to how to word these sentences. Now here the second sentence under the heading skills and awards, which the student has mentioned, is possess interpersonal and team building skills of very high level by virtue of participating in North Zone Korfball Championship and securing first position, and state level Korfball Championship and securing third position. So here, by participating in a single activity, he has reflected team building skills and interpersonal skills, and he went on to win some competitions also. Now this sport is very obscure, very very new. I have not heard of it. I do not know what kind of a sport is this, but this sport is a team activity. It requires these skills, worth mentioning. That is why this person has put it up here. Now after having listed our skills and awards, we can derive skills and awards from drawing and painting also. Creativity, innovative thinking. But this can come in handy while somebody is applying for a job in an advertising agency, wherein they would be required to make spreadsheets or placards of their advertisement, which is going to appear on the, maybe even PowerPoint presentations of the advertisement, as it is going to appear in the print media or in the electronic media. So that is how every activity for which there is an evidence of having participated or having won, from there we can sift out or separate transferable skills and list it out in the resume of our freshers, our students. Next comes obviously education. We advise you not to make a table for a resume because it makes the resume look heavy, cumbersome, occupies a lot of space. But in this case, the companies that were coming for campus placement recruitment required the CGPA to be given out that like this, SGPA to be given out in a tabular form. So that is how it has been listed. We also advise you not to give out the details of your mark score or the percentage because that requires, that again occupies space. And this is another question that can be easily answered by you during the interview. If you've already given, then this question becomes redundant. Interview, so through your resume you can control your interview as well. So resume is actually fixing the boundaries within which your interviewer or employer is going to ask you questions. So see, that much of planning and thinking goes in writing out a resume. Don't give out your marks, let them find out. Or the case could be the marks are too good, then they could again, then the recruiter could be put off because he or she may not be such a good scorer, just be an average student, might already feel threatened by you. Otherwise, there could be a very random graph in case of scoring in the case of the student. Then there is another doubt in the mind of the recruiter or the employee, even before asking you any questions, that why is there such a graph? Why is there no consistency in performance? Will this person be a consistent performer when I give him or her employment in my organization? Do you think? Do you understand how this reflects? Or otherwise, if you scored low, then why do you want to publicize it? So let the recruiter ask you a question. Let there be a question which you will definitely know the answer of, will be comfortable in answering, and the time of the interview is going to be utilized in answering such comfortable questions by you. The more you answer comfortable questions in an interview, the more confidence you gain, and the better your answer is, and the better you fare in an interview. So you can control your interview through your resume. But here, this person has given it in the form of a table. Do not give a table. This person has also given details because it was required by the companies. Completed this. And how do you word your academic qualifications? Pursuing Bachelor of Engineering Chemical from UICT Punjab University, Chandigarh, and then these are the scores. Otherwise, the score is not required. Then, having completed, once you complete 12th, how you do that? Completed class 12 CBSE in the year. That is it. Now, CBSE board नहीं होना चाहिए. Punjab board होता है. But CBSE is already a board, Central Board of Secondary Education. So we usually like return back. These kind of, paradoxical phrases or redundant phrases we should not use. So that is how you should word out your, list out your qualifications in a resume. Here they are mentioned only till 10th, and that is what they would be required till. Suppose it is in case of MTech students, so maybe their class 10 scores can also be avoided there. And there's enough space, if you will see, there's enough space left. If the table had not been there, there would have been enough space for the recruiter or the employer to write his or her personal comments about the marks as well. At every stage we are giving a lot of space to the recruiter. Next, let's come to, in case of students, there will be a space marked as training synopsis. There is compulsory training that every student of engineering or vocational course has to undergo. So that training synopsis should be mentioned. That training synopsis includes what were you doing, at which place did you go undergo training, what was the project that you handled, and just list out one or two skills that were developed or one or two areas of knowledge that were developed by virtue of this training. So that is how this training synopsis has been written down here. Vocational training at Department of Process, whatever, and he has given it out as bullets. 2 things, evaluation of various types of LNG vaporizers. 2 things, 2 skills that were developed or enhanced during such training. Now, if you will notice, this resume has filled on to the next sheet. We have come towards the end of the first sheet, and here the footer is left entirely empty. The footer is always left entirely empty, and please do not write the page number also on the footer. If I see one numeral written here in the footer, then it gives me the idea that this resume is going to run into the second sheet also, even if it is not going to run. Then as a recruiter, I am put off that, that, ये तो लंबा resume है, I might as well keep it aside. Let me come to it later on. But when I've already sifted through the available stack with me and I find that this is enough for me, adequate material, adequate number of candidates for me to sift through and let those whom I have kept for consideration later on, let them be with the waste in the waste paper bin. Then this is another factor. This small thing as writing the page number is another factor for rejection of my resume. Please be very careful. After having written the training synopsis comes to personal details. Personal details is name of the father, which is written on top. Before that, please write your date of birth. Don't write age, write date of birth. Write it in formats which are covered, of writing a date when I was writing a formal letter. Either you write it in the American format of 22 August, comma, the year, or August 22nd August, whatever the year is, or August 22, whatever the year is, separated by a comma. The month and the year are always separated by a comma. Then you give your father's name. Please give his name with a title, not with the title Shri or Srimati for your mother. I will take up your queries after the session. Oh. Which center is this? Is it BIT Pilani? Meerut? See, has the problem been rectified? That is what has been informed to us by technicians here. Can you now see the pictures? Oh. Not yet?
You are not able to see anything on the screen? Right from the beginning you are not able to see, or just now it went off?
For the last 15 to 20 minutes you have not been able to see anything? Okay.
What about the other centers? Let me just ask some other center. Ghaziabad, are you able to hear us and see the picture of the back? Ghaziabad? RKGAT Ghaziabad, are you able to see and listen both?
Okay.
Right from beginning till now? Okay. If there is Dr. Kavita there, kindly refresh your system. Refresh the page, please. We have been informed by the technical staff here. Are you able to see us now? Okay. Just hold on. BIT Meerut, are you able to see now?
Then I'll probably revise it for them, है ना? Maybe they can.
नहीं, ये पावर पॉइंट नहीं है, ये यही है, इसमें टेक्स्ट ही है, अभी दिखा रहे हैं हम। अनुराग जी, ये टेक्स्ट ही दिखा रहे हैं, पावर पॉइंट शिफ्ट कर रहे हैं। Yes, at BIT Meerut, are you able to see now? Is it okay now? Should we go ahead then? Okay.
Alright, then I'll continue with the session. I had just covered that after the academic qualifications, we gave a training synopsis. I'll show you how the training synopsis was placed. The training synopsis, training every student undergoes while being enlisted in a vocational course. So training synopsis is a heading that is given separately, wherein the student words out as to what was the training undergone, at which organization, and maybe even the duration, and then one or two important areas of his or her education or skills which were developed by virtue of that training are listed out as bullets. Then we came to the header of the first sheet. In this case, the resume has spilled over to the second sheet, but it is not more than 1/4 of the next sheet also. The footer is left empty, again complying with the requirement of convenience for the recruiter or the employer to write down enough space to write down whatever valuable comments or remarks he or she might want to do that. And the footer, albeit is empty, runs as a line, very visible line across the sheet of the resume, like the footer, and it is in this of the same length as the footer. So both the header and the footer at 10% of the length of the page space. So 80% is occupied by the main body, and these two are of the same length. Let's come on to the next sheet. If you will see in the next sheet of my resume, this line is not visible here, but when a printout was taken of this resume, the line is there. However, in this sheet the line is not visible, but this is the line segregating the header from the rest of the sheet. The header has to be there. Please do not repeat your name or contact information on the second sheet of your resume, because you want to make it look very light and concise, and the repetition of information is useless. It should be avoided. Yet the header should be separated from the main body. Then I have given my personal details. Now I told you the personal details first here is how you give your date of birth. Date of birth can either be given in the American format or in the British format. British format is 22nd of August separated, comma, separating the year, then the year. This is the same principles for writing down the date which I told you or discussed with you while writing a date in an official letter. And the American format of writing a date, August 22, comma, year. The year is always separated from the rest of the date with a comma. Next in personal details is father's name. When you write down your father's name, please use the title Mr., not Shri. If you are writing down your mother's name, please do not use the title Srimati, because Shri and Srimati are Hindi titles. Albeit we write it as SH or SMT, but they are not to be used in documents which we are writing in English language. So always use Mr. or Mrs. For your father, write down Mr. and then his name. You will not write engineer or doctor here also for your father. It is not required. This is not a title. Okay. After having done that, and I told you, like I said, I took up an example when we were writing, skills and awards, and I said that suppose you have very highly developed computer-aided designing skills, but you do not have evidence to show for them. How would you put that out? And then I said that is some skill, very strong skill that you do not want to be missed out of your resume. Then this is the portion, other interest, where you can write it here. I will also tell you, I will discuss what this student has written as other interest and what is the theory behind it. So when you are writing, when you are guiding your students to write other interests in their resumes, what is the thinking behind it? Above other interest and between the name of father is languages spoken. Please be very careful. We are not going to write languages known, because known is a very vague term. Then it includes listening, reading, writing, speaking. We have to mention the level of skills associated with every language, and that trims down, or that makes my resume look very long. If I write even as a subtext below my language is Hindi, L, S, R, not W, if I cannot write Hindi, then there seems a lot of text is placed on the resume. I want my resume to look very light. So to avoid all that confusion or to make the resume appear light, I put languages known. I put languages spoken. When I say spoken, then there are definitely more languages that I can speak than I can write. Because for writing I need to know the grammar also. I need to know the script also, as to which was like for some people writing Hindi, for foreigners writing Hindi is difficult in that script, in Devanagari script. They can write it in English. Yes, so this increases the number of languages for me. Suppose I include Gujarati in languages spoken for me. Then if some company like Reliance is coming for campus placement or recruitment, then it is going to work in my favor. Although I don't know the grammar of the language Gujarati, I do not know how to write Gujarati, I do not know the script, but I can speak Gujarati. This is going to work in my favor over other candidates who cannot even speak Gujarati. Yes, so that is why I write languages spoken here. Then comes other interests. I said how to write other interests is very important. They should be included only if you have certain very well developed pastime activities. Please do not mention this as pastime activity. Please do not put the title here as hobbies. Only title that can be given to such activities is other interests. Besides the academic pursuits, these are the other interests that I have. Now here this person has mentioned playing cricket as other interest. Because when I talked to you about this person's resume earlier, I said korfball was a sport that he mentioned, and by virtue of that he said interpersonal skills and team spirit were present in large quantities or large amounts in his personality. He claimed that, and he provided evidence also for that. But that is a very vague sport. Nobody knows. In fact, I also don't know what kind of sport is this. So cricket is almost like a national sport, although it is not the national sport of India. It is like in the pulse. It is like blood in every young child, every young boy's veins in today's India. So he said, I want to show that I am a normal person, because he has scored so well. He's got above average scores in all his classes from class 10th onwards. He has participated in activities also from which he reflected the transferable skills in his resume, which were co-curricular but not extracurricular, which were related to the curriculum being taught in the institutes. So he wanted to project that he has a very well developed personality, and he wanted to show that he is like an ordinary person and enjoys ordinary activities, and that is why he mentioned here playing cricket. The next activity that he mentions here is collecting currencies of different countries. Now there's a very interesting anecdote here. When he was saying that I want to, because I was totally against mentioning these other interests. I said they do not stand out and you're just wasting space on your resume. Let us not go there and let the interviewer ask you about them during the course of the interview. Another question that you would be comfortable answering, let's not waste space here. But he said, no, I want to put it down here. He was very insistent about this, collecting currencies. I said, okay, how many countries currency do you have? He said, I have somewhere around 12 currencies from different countries. I said, very good. How do you find time besides scoring so well, participating in so many activities, to travel to such places? And your parents must be really wealthy and affluent to afford travel to such places. So he said, no, I have not been to them. The only place I have been to outside India is Nepal. I said, great. So why do you want to put it? Anybody can buy currency from the market, put it in a book and say collecting currency. I said, I can collect anything that I want to. He said, no, there's a story behind it. I said, fine. So he says, I have not bought these currency notes or coins from the market. They are actually sourced from their native countries, from their native places. I said, you have not traveled. How have they reached you? He said, whenever I come to know that somebody in my friend circle, family circle, or an acquaintance of a family or a friend is traveling abroad to a certain country of whose currency I do not have, I do not hesitate from approaching that person and putting in my request to get at least one currency note and one currency coin from that country, so that I can add it to my collection. I said, that's good, because this reflected his good communication skills, level of confidence, passion for an activity or a pastime activity that he nurtured in himself. Then I said, okay, you've collected those currency notes. How do they help you? You've put it in a book and that is it. He said, no. Whenever I'm feeling dejected or despaired, I go back to that book or album, open it, go through those notes, touch them, feel them, and revive my promise to myself that I have vowed that in my lifetime, through my own earnings, I will travel to each of these places. So that shows his determination, his perseverance, and how he deals with failure or dejection. That person has the strength and ability within his personality that was reflected by this small mention of his other interest in his resume. So if an HR is conducting an interview for such a candidate, so many facets, so many positive facets of that individual's or student's personality can be brought out through a simple mention of such a minute detail in the resume. So it is very important to write an interest, but only write an interest if it is going to work in your favor, and you can actually give evidence, or you can actually corroborate it with certain habits, certain routine in your day-to-day life. Do not take this small heading very very easily or casually. It carries a lot of weight and responsibility to it. After mentioning the personal details, we come to the disclaimer. Now, disclaimer is like any other statement, because once you sign your resume, it becomes a document which can be used in the court, which becomes a legal document authenticated by you. So you have to certify that whatever information that you furnished in your resume is true, it's authentic. This is not some lies that you put up on the resume to mislead the company, the organization, and the recruiter. Here I said, like in the objective, the disclaimer can also be written in the first person. Here we have given an example wherein even the first person is not used. The statement for the disclaimer in this sample resume reads like this: the information furnished above is true and correct to the best of my knowledge. My here is the only point wherein the first person is used. And then below the disclaimer, we have provided space on the left side for date and place. Please put these headings there and let them be empty. You will fill in the date and place for the same date and place where and when you are signing your resume. Then on the other side, on the same level or on the same sheet, on the other side, that is the right side, we have left space for signing of the candidate, for the signatures of the candidate, and below it, within brackets, the typed name of the candidate is given. Now you will sign your resume, only one copy of your resume you will sign when you're going to an interview. You will keep extra copies of unsigned resume with you. Now you will fill up the date on the day you're signing the resume, and you will fill up the place from where you are appearing for the interview. Suppose somebody who is stationed in Chandigarh is appearing for an interview in Delhi, will fill up the space Chandigarh. I said from the place, not at the place. So we fill up Chandigarh, not Delhi, in the place. After having written this, let's scroll down, and I want to show you that the entire resume is, below this is empty. This is the empty space that is left here, and this whole sheet is empty, but towards the end there is still a demarcation for the footer, which is not visible here. See, it is visible here. You will see that this line is going on as a demarcation for footer, and this is left empty. So do not forget this. There should be parity in formatting and placement of text on both the sheets of the resume, but ideally a resume should not exceed one side of an A4 sheet, and preferably just 3/4 of an A4 sheet. Let me come back to the presentation. I want to pick up some do's and don'ts of a resume with you. I want to run through the slides again with you. Okay. Education, how the education is placed. Skills and awards. We write down transferable skills in case of freshers. I told you how to shortlist or come up with a list of skills, shortlisting the skills in pertinence with the job profile, then reflect them, place them according to the requirement of the job profile in your resume, although they are not the strongest skill. Your strongest skills will come much later. Okay, then projecting them in the resume, then the skill or skill set will be placed. First there will be an assumption about the skill, and then there will be an evidence. For the skills that you cannot provide an evidence, you will not put them there in skills and awards. Then the education, how is it written? Please pay attention here, which I am reading out again. Name of the degree or the certificate, followed by the name of the university or board, and finally the year. Marks or percentage may or may not be written, but we advise you not to write it. But if there is a standard format that is given out by companies coming for campus placement, like a tabular form or whatever, let your students follow that. Training synopsis, how do we write down training synopsis? Project or training undertaken, the place where they went to, the organization, then the duration for 6 months from July this to whatever January this. Distinguishing areas, which were the areas in their knowledge or skill set that were developed by virtue of this training. The next is other relevant information. How is that? Sorry? It may not be in those areas? Okay. Okay. So now sir here has pointed out that the areas that are touched upon in training synopsis may not be in a bullet form because that makes it look lengthier. It can just be put out as a statement so that the resume is not lengthy, it is just written down. Okay. Next here we advise you not to include nationality. But if you have campus placement wherein a lot of MNCs are coming, then you might want to include your nationality, because then the question about your having a passport will also arise during an interview, and then the requirement for that passport size photograph, which I told you to be very careful about. Languages spoken and other interests, which will be included only when they are very relevant and very strong interests, and you have something to show as a different dimension to your personality. Please advise your students not to mention headings like hobbies or pastime activities. No mention of strengths and weaknesses ever on your CV, biodata, or even a resume. Resume out of question because it would increase the space, increase the length. Strengths and weaknesses are again assumptions on your part. We have provided all the assumptions with evidence here on the resume, and so it is done in the case of a CV as well. That is all that was to be covered here in this session. Disclaimer: I have told you how to write date and place, and how to put your sign, when, on how many copies of resumes will you put your sign, and why should you write your typed name below it, because sometimes the signatures are illegible. So you should put your typed name within brackets below the signatures. That is all that was there for today's session. And if there's something that you want to ask me, there's one more thing that I want to specify here. There's one more thing that I want to ask you here, want to point out here is that let your resume be very short, brief, covering the relevant points, but please do not ever come across as a job hopper in your resume. Never show that, if there are a number of jobs that you've held and you've developed a number of skills, do not show those skills and job positions or job titles in your resume to such a degree that you come across as a very unstable employee, because this is a double-edged sword that can work against you. So you should be very careful in sifting out information and placing it on the resume. If there are any questions regarding this session, please ask me. And I'd also covered information and how to write down covering letter, which is attached, or along with which is attached any unsolicited CV or resume in the previous session that I had taken up on Tuesday. Are there any questions now? Yes? Yes. 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 Yes, I want to clarify this here, that this is a misconception about biodata, that it is required for only blue-collar jobs or for matrimonial purposes, because it has details about our biology like height, weight, and complexion. This is a very bad misconception in India and also the South Asian region. The biodata run into 10-12 pages also. And I told you that certain format given out by organizations where you are required to answer certain questions as to choice of religion, choice of political ideology, these kind of formats are also called biographical data. Why would an organization ask you about your choice of religion or political ideology when that organization wants to ensure the stimulus or the factors which would motivate you to take a certain decision in certain circumstances. And why would an organization want to do that when it places many resources, both human and financial, at your disposal? That would come only when you're occupying senior positions or senior most positions in an organization. So that is when we require a biodata. And a CV is only 2 to 3 pages in length. It can be used by freshers, but it has only a description of general talent. And that is why I'm clarifying it, ma'am, but you're still entitled to your opinion. You're still entitled to your opinion. Thank you. Yes? I cannot understand. Yes. Yes. No, ma'am, it is not only academics. It deals both with academics in detail and also with professional history in detail. But does not highlight specific skills or talents. It is just a very general description of what are the skills and knowledge acquired by a person over the course of their academic and professional career. That is what a CV is. A chronological resume will list in the reverse chronological order only those skills which are pertinent to that job profile. I might even shunt out or do away with certain job profiles which were held, or certain posts which were held intermittently between 2 or 3 job profiles, because they are not relevant to this job title. This is the difference between a chronological resume and a CV. And a CV can run into 2 to 3 pages, where a resume will always be in not more than 1 page, one side of an A4 sheet. And it does not include details of my academic qualifications. Hmm. One to 2 years of experience. Sorry, then there is no difference.
And the CV.
I am telling you again and again, a resume is always written in accordance with the requirement of the job profile. So that is the main basis of separating a resume from a CV. CV will include all the details, whereas a resume will include only the relevant details. That is why it is shorter. Okay?
Well, friends, is there any other question from any other? If there is any other question from any other center? Any other center have any question, please?
Hello.
Yes.
Suppose I have 2 years of experience, then I will come under the CV of the resume. I have to write the CV of resume.
It will be a resume, and you will customize it according to the requirement of the job title for which you are applying.
But
Then you will make a chronological resume. Yes, yes.
in which we have not included the experience level.
We can.
I told you just now, chronological resume, not functional, but chronological resume you can make now. है ना? Okay.
Well, friends, any other center has any question or any remarks? जी.
Which resume?
Which resume? Can say again.
Video resume.
Video resume. Video resume.
it just plays out as probably a video or a PowerPoint presentation of your resume. This will be made only when invited for by the organization, not in the hard copy form but in the soft copy form. But you will not send out a video or a PowerPoint presentation of your resume until unless asked for. And the same thing, it will not be very lengthy or detailed. The same format and styling will be adopted while making a video resume also. It is just one slide after the other, almost like a PowerPoint presentation. Yes? I cannot understand. Covering letter I took up when I did writing skills with you on Tuesday, as to how to write an official letter and covering letter. I told that the covering letter has 3 paragraphs, and the first paragraph outrightly mentions as to how you came to know that such and such vacancy is going to come up in such and such organization which has not been advertised. And then along with this covering letter, you are attaching your resume or CV. In the second paragraph, you will not replicate or repeat your resume or CV. You will just say or mention the points as to that these are the things, these are the skills I feel are required for this job title, which if you read my resume or CV are aptly reflected in my personality or in my experience. And then in the third paragraph, you will tell them as to how you intend to follow up this communication, this covering letter through call, through email, and to grant you time or appointment for personal interview. That is how you write a covering letter, and all the details, contact information should be given, how it should be placed, what should be written in the subject title. This all was covered on Tuesday. Yes. If you are sending an unsolicited resume or CV, unsolicited means that the post or the vacancy has not been publicized. You have somehow come to know that in a few days time or in a few weeks time, such a vacancy is going to arise in the organization, and before this is publicized through your common contact, you want to give in or submit your resume or CV for consideration, so that that post may be filled with your employment. Then you need to accompany your CV or resume with a covering letter. Suppose you are sending your CV or resume through email, then you need to have a covering letter in the form of an email with your CV or resume. In that case, the CV or resume goes as an attachment with the covering letter, the covering email.
Hello?
Yes?
Yeah.
Yes? I covered it. I covered it in detail during the session, and I covered it again. Transferable skills are those skills which are not present, which cannot be shown in their core form or in the generic form in your personality, but they are developed or honed by virtue of participating in certain activities along with your job responsibilities or along with your academic career. For example, I said that a person who participates in debates and declamation has very well developed communication skills, which can be now reflected, despite the dearth of professional experience, which can be now reflected in the resume by showing that possess highly developed communication skills by having won numerous debating and declamation contests at the university level and also representing the state. So that is what is a transferable skill. And a resume, I told you, is a very short document, almost like a print advertisement, and it is relevant. It is customized according to the requirement of the job for which a person or an individual is applying.
Hello?
Yes?
Hello?
Yes?
Hello? I am from Biriko.
And functional resume and? Sorry, I did not get it again. Transferable resume, transferable skills, functional resume and targeted resume. Targeted resume is the same thing as functional resume, is the same, another word, another, sorry? Yes, another terminology for the same resume, functional resume, same as targeted resume. In the targeted resume, as in functional resume, you are targeting a specific job profile. You are, there is no difference.
Hello? Hello?
Okay, some other center was asking, I think, some question. BTTA Palani is trying to ask a question.
Yes. My question is, what is the main reason of rejection? Resume, even if the resume has covered all the information. Hello.
दोबारा से बोलिए please.
Please be a
My,
little louder also.
my question is, what is the main reason of rejection of resume, even if the resume has covered all the informations? Hello.
Yes, please say again.
My question is, what is the reason of rejections of resume, even if the resume has covered all the information at the time of interview?
Okay. कहता है कि अभी जब आपने start कर लो, but the reason for the rejection, the company decide करना ना.
That is not my prerogative or even in the hands of the candidate or the individual applying for a job post. It is entirely the decision of the recruiters and the organization as to reject a person and to induct a person in their organization. Anything else? Yes. ये मुझे समझ नहीं आया.
Please say again, sir.
Now see, if an organization asks for it, it is, I don't think it is discriminatory. Certain age requirements, like for certain job profiles. For example, if somebody from MTV's recruitment team is to come and they want some camera operator, and they know that the shoot is going to be off location and it is going to be on the very, strenuous terrain. So then they would not want somebody above the age of certain years, for example 35 years, to handle the camera, because it is going to be a very strenuous task for them. So it is according to the requirement of the organization, which fix, like education can also be considered discriminatory then. Fixing conditions can be considered discriminatory, they can be in any nature. We cannot hold that prerogative, we are no one to comment on that. That is why, to make a resume very objective, we tell not to mention religion, because such details like religion are mentioned in the bio data, which has more of personal details. In a resume, age is not mentioned, but date of birth is required, which would obviously be mentioned on your 10th class mark sheet also. If you are submitting it as, you have to submit it along with your other certificates when appearing for an interview, attached with this resume. Yes, I agree with you that it is considered highly offensive, and for the same reason I told that the photograph should also not be put there. There should not be any title of Mr., Miss, Mrs. The only title that can be used is Mr. Must, but that too for writing a letter, not in a resume. But then, these are prerogatives of the organizations which we cannot comment on. We have to keep a resume as objective as possible within the accepted norms in our job market, the local job market of India. Suppose if somebody is applying for any job outside India, then these norms have to be followed. But even if an MNC is coming for recruitment to India, these are the norms that have to be followed in that case as well. Yes. Sorry, I did not get you.
If you are overqualified, that will.
क्या पूछा?
If you are overqualified, please correct me if I am wrong. You are asking a question that if you are overqualified, should you mention it in the resume or in the forwarding letter or no? Covering letter.
I don't think so, because then if you already hold such a high opinion of yourself, it will be very difficult for the bosses and the seniors to manage you. They do not want an employee with an inflated ego. So please do not make out anything that makes it convenient for them to reject you. Anywhere on the resume, CV or the covering letter. I told you when a covering letter is required, when you are sending your resume or CV at any position unsolicited.
Thank you so much. If there is no more questions, I just have a few things to be shared on this topic. Number one is, when you are writing a resume, kindly use action verbs. Action verbs which are corroborating with the skills you are trying to tell the organization that I possess these skills. With the action verbs, they should be written in the resume. Number two is that put yourself in the position of the employer. That if you are the employer for this position, what kind of candidates you are going to take for the personal interviews. The resume is there only for an invitation for the personal interviews. It is not a selection. The purpose of the resume is that by sorting out the resume, by seeing the resume, the company is trying to find out who are the people out of, let us say, 100 people, who are the 10 people whom I should invite for the personal interviews. Now you put yourself in the position of the employer and find out that what he is looking for this position, and then reflect that in your resume. I think that will be a very good guideline for the people to know. And one more point is, many times if you are having a format as discussed by Madam Suditi here, you can use that format. Nowadays many companies have their own formats also.
Yes.
Then in that case, for example, in this case also, the company required the CGPA to be mentioned in tabular form. But in many companies are now having their own formats. You have to adhere to the format which is given by the company, and put yourself always in the employer's situation also. I think this session has been very, very interesting because people have asked number of questions, and it's well taken. Thank you so much, ma'am, for sparing your valuable time. And we're going to now have a session on non-verbal communication, but before that we will have a tea break for 15 minutes. We will reassemble at 11:35. We reassemble at 11:35, and Madam Bedi is already here in the studio. I request all of you to kindly reassemble at 11:35 for the next session on non-verbal communication. Thank you so much.
मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कैसे पढ़ते हैं बच्चों को।
ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਦੀ ਕਾਪੀ ਕਰਾ ਦੇਣਾ ਮੈਂ ਕਾਪੀ ਕਰਾ ਦਾਂਗਾ ਉੱਥੇ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਕਾਪੀ ਕਰਾ ਲਵਾਂ
ਫਿਰ ਮੈਂ ਨਾ ਪਰਮਜੀਤ ਨੂੰ ਪਰੇਸ਼ਾਨ ਕਰਨੀ ਆ
Okay, well friends, we are reassembled for the next session now. We had a very wonderful session on resume writing, and now we are going to have a very important aspect of communication. We have been talking about that. Some of the speakers have covered some aspects related to non-verbal communication, but non-verbal communication is so important in communication skills that we have kept a exclusive session on non-verbal communication. And my own colleague and a very dear colleague, Dr. S.P. Bedi, who is working as a professor in the Department of Education and Education Management for the last more than about 30 years in this institute. She is going to engage the session on non-verbal communication. I invite Dr. Bedi to kindly engage the session and kindly introduce herself with the participants.
Thank you, Mr. P.K. Singla, for the kind words. My name is, as introduced by Singla ji, S.P. Bedi. I have done MSc Chemistry and then shifted to the field of pedagogy. I have joined this institution in the year 1984. And as the mandate of the institution, the 5 major activities, that's education and training, research and development, instructional material development, extension services. I am contributing to all these areas of the institution. I am glad to see that quite a good number of centers have joined for this. Let me welcome the participants on all these centers from Delhi, Haryana, UP, Rajasthan, Punjab. So it's really appreciating that so many centers have joined and so many participants are faculty from different states are interacting with us. So non-verbal communication, just Mr. Singla has mentioned that our various speakers have talked about this. So maybe there are some maybe repetitions if they have already talked on that. But let's just discuss something you might be knowing already. Say, I would say, if it has already been talked, let me not go into the formal definition of this aspect. So, and this thing, we think that no more than 30 to 35% of the meaning is carried entirely by words, and non-verbal communication. अब देखो 100 में से around 65% is your non-verbal communication. So this thing I think has been already discussed. So your non-verbal communication, we will see how it adds, subtracts, and changes our messages to the other person. So you can say this is the word beyond words. You just read this line. You cannot not communicate. Means even if you are not communicating, you are communicating. Why? This is the reason you are communicating. Because you are not communicating orally, but your body movement, your space, how you are sitting, you are just touching anybody, your voice, your environment. If the environment is very good, comfortable, you feel happy, and that is reflected on your in your gestures, face, and also artifacts, your physical characteristics, everything communicates with you. So we say you cannot not communicate. You are always, every time communicating. One author, Susan Bixler, who was president of Professional Image in Business Situations, he has rightly said, body language always wins over the verbal communication. So before we move, you just see within verbal communication also there are different emphasis on the different things. Say your facial expressions, right? contributes maximum to what you are saying today. Verbal aspect, that is the tone and all these things, this not contribute, but tone of course has a real effect on in passing on the messages. So non-verbal messages, they are present in all communications. You see, any communication you are making, non-verbal will come into play, and that may be intentional or unintentional. At times you are not aware that you are communicating, but you communicate. So, and it's not intentional that you say, okay, I will make a gesture like this. No, it may come, and at times you are not aware that you are making that gesture or like that, and how it is taken by the other person. Let me give you my own example of my as a student. In one of my class, at that time also I had hair like that. So one of our teacher was teaching, and very unintentionally I did like this. Means बाल आ गया है तो पीछे कर दिया ऐसे करके. And she said, why are you doing this like? She thought that I am contradicting what she is saying. So this gesture was totally unintentional, but it conveyed something else. My point is that as you as teachers should also be very alert about the intentional and unintentional your communication, non-verbal communication, because at times you might not be having anything which you want to convey to the students, but your facial expression, eye contact, anything can communicate otherwise. So you have to be alert on that. Then may not contradict verbal message. This generally happens. आप कहते हैं congratulations, मुंह पे तो 12 बजे हैं, congratulations काहे की है, ठीक है? So it has contradicted my verbal message. It may reinforce my verbal message. मैं कहती हूँ congratulations, अब क्या हुआ? मैं really बहुत खुश हूँ आपको congratulate करके. So it has reinforced my message. This depends on the total environment. अरे भाई सामान बिखरा पड़ा है, आपको कुछ अच्छा नहीं लग रहा है, आप मुंह बना रहे हो, पर वो आप मैसेज कन्वे नहीं कर रहे हो, पर आप परेशान हो किसी और चीज से. तो जो टोटल एनवायरनमेंट जिसमें बैठे हैं ना, दैट आल्सो इज अफेक्टिंग योर कम्युनिकेशन. मे हैव पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव. वो तो मुझे लगता है जब कंट्राडिक्ट होता है तो नेगेटिव इफेक्ट आता है, जब रीइंफोर्स होता है तो पॉजिटिव आता है. आप कहते हैं इस पर्सन से बात करके बड़ा मजा आता है, वो सिर्फ वर्बल नहीं होता है, उसके कुछ एक्सप्रेशंस, सारा कुछ, उसकी टोटल पर्सनैलिटी, नॉन वर्बल पर्सनैलिटी जो का एस्पेक्ट है, वो ऐसे बोलता है कि यू फील लाइक टॉकिंग टू द पर्सन. सो दीज मैसेजेस कैन हैव बोथ पॉजिटिव एंड नेगेटिव इफेक्ट्स. अब मेरा जो सेशन है वो मेरी तरफ से सिर्फ बोलना नहीं होगा. आई विल लाइक टू हैव योर व्यूज ऑन दिस आल्सो. So non-verbal communication can create a professional image that projects for a teacher. आप क्या सोचते हैं कि non-verbal communication जो है वो टीचर की कौन सी इमेज को प्रोजेक्ट करेगा? Let me hear from you. I start with the centers which are connected. Let me take first of all Northern India Engineering College, Delhi. Anybody who would like to say that how the non-verbal communication of the teacher give the message of what type of image is formed through the non-verbal messages. Hanji, anybody from Delhi? आइडियाज हमें स्टूडियोज के नाम क्या है आपका मैडम? सोनिका जी कह रही हैं आइडियाज जो टीचर्स के हैं वो पता चलते हैं. एनीबडी एल्स फ्रॉम दिल्ली से? नहीं करेंगे? ओके, फ्रॉम मेरठ, भारत इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी. आप टीचर की क्या इमेज होती है? वर्बल तो सुन लिया आपने, बड़े अच्छी अच्छी एक्सप्लेनेशंस दे दी, ठीक है, पेस ठीक रखी, थिंकिंग का वेरी गुड, आइडियाज का पता चलता है, उसकी थिंकिंग का पता चलता है। वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड। मैं नोज योर नेम? हाँ जी रचना जी, आपने बहुत अच्छा कहा, पर मैं थोड़ा सा इस पे डिफर करूंगी। आपने कहा नॉलेज, अब देखो अगर मैं चुप खड़ी हूँ तो मेरी नॉलेज तो नहीं पता चलेगी, अगर मैं सिर्फ ऐसे ऐसे करती हूँ मेरी नॉलेज तो नहीं पता चलेगी। पर आपने एक बहुत अच्छी सही बात कही है, कॉन्फिडेंस, 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 ठीक है। जब आप ये जो है ना आपका नॉलेज, वो जब वो बोलता है ना तब आता है, तो ओरल कम्युनिकेशन शुरू होगी। पर वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड, हाँ बिल्कुल 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 वो सही है। पर जो आउटराइटली हमें पता चलता है थ्रू द नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन, वो हमें टीचर का कॉन्फिडेंस पता चलता है, ठीक है। आपको मैं एक और चीज बताऊं, आपने कई, हो सकता है आपने भी कोई इंटरव्यू फेस की हो, देयर आर पीपल जो बिल्कुल भी नॉलेज में ऐसा ऐसा ही होता है बस, पर कॉन्फिडेंस माशाल्लाह, कॉन्फिडेंस ऐसे झलकता है फेस पे, वो कहते हैं कि हाँ जो आता है बताएंगे तो दिल खोल के बताएंगे। जो जब ये एटीट्यूड आपके दिमाग में है ना, तो वो जो सारा है ना आपके फेस के एक्सप्रेशंस को ही बदल देता है, ठीक। तो ये जो कॉन्फिडेंस है ये नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन देती है। ऑफ कोर्स दूसरी कम्युनिकेशन भी दे रही है, बट नॉन वर्बल जो है ये इसके लिए काफी इंपॉर्टेंट है। Then और कोई anything from any center, any person who wants to add to this? Okay, so once you set the confidence, very right, teacher poised है, balanced है, face से कहते हैं ना नूर झलकता है, देख के, वही मैं कह रही हूँ ना, उसकी पर्सनैलिटी को देख के एक मजा आ जाता है। जो होता है ना टेंस, वो फेस पे आता है, टेंशन सारी, तो जो वॉइस है, कंटेम्प्ट है, वो उसके फेस पे एक शांति सी झलकती है। तो वो बोलने में भी आएगा ऑफ कोर्स, पर फेस पे बहुत आती है। देन असर्टिवनेस, कितना टीचर असर्टिव है, वो भी जो है एक कॉन्फिडेंस की तरह फेस पे, आपके जेस्चर्स पे, उसके सारा थ्रू कम्युनिकेट होता है। सो इफ यू आर little bit aware of this, मैं finally consolidate नहीं करूंगी, you go on means taking into view what type of non-verbal communication you should be aware of and incorporate in your teaching, you go by side for that. So then first I come to the postures and gesture. किस तरह के टीचर का पोस्चर होना चाहिए? Anybody? Posture and gesture का मतलब हम ले लेते हैं पहले। This will tell you about the tension, रिलैक्सेशन, योर मूड, योर पावर, पर्सनैलिटी। जब पावर बहुत होती है ना तो पर्सन ज्यादा अकड़ के खड़ा हो जाता है, मेरे पास तो पावर है, ठीक है। जब टेंशन होती है तो उम्र से झरनियां आएंगी पर और भी फेस पे आ जाएंगी। रिलैक्सेशन है तो फेस पे एक शांति सी होगी। तो आपके पोस्चर, आपके जेस्चर, वो सारा ये चीजें कम्युनिकेट करेंगे। आप कुछ नहीं बोलेंगे, That's why we said, मैं बार बार कहूंगी, you cannot not communicate, क्योंकि जब आप चुप भी खड़े होते हैं तो टीचर है, क्लास के सारे स्टूडेंट्स को सिग्नल जा रहा होता है कि वो खड़ा है, टीचर है, तो उसकी जो एक प्रेजेंस है वो ही एक कम्युनिकेशन कर रही होती है। Sometimes they are substituted for words, अब इस पे मैं ज्यादा नहीं जाती। तो पोस्चर के बारे में आप क्या बताना चाहेंगे? How you stand, किस तरह खड़े होना चाहिए टीचर को? स्ट्रेट, मुझे एक स्टूडियो से आवाज आई, स्ट्रेट, सोनिया जी ने कहा है। ओके, anybody from any center? एक्शन, हाँ, एक्शन किस तरह का हो? अब देखो मैं पोस्टर ऐसे खड़ी हूँ, अब ये क्या कहता है, ये टीचर कैसे है? जब आप पोडियम पे झुक जाते हो, सहारा लेते हो पोडियम का, तो कॉन्फिडेंस है क्या? नहीं है आप में कॉन्फिडेंस। मैं चाहे कितना भी अच्छा पढ़ाती हूँ ऐसे करके गिर के, that won't convey that message. So standing erect conveys you are confident and have positive emotions. अब I take the other one. जैसे मैंने अभी इनेक्ट करके दिखाया, when you are draped over a podium with shoulders sagging, you give the feeling of depression, lack of control, हाय मर गए, like that. अब ये क्या, आपने कई टीचर्स को देखा होगा जिनको नॉलेज अच्छी थी, बट दे हैड दिस टाइप ऑफ टेंडेंसी। किसी ने देखे ऐसे टीचर्स जो पोडियम पे झुक जाते हैं, ठीक है, सहारा ले लेते हैं उसका, बिल्कुल ऐसे ढीला सा पोस्टर बना लेते हैं, बट दे आर नॉलेजेबल एंड दे आर मीन्स नॉलेज भी होती है उनको थोड़ा ऐसे टीचर्स को आपने देखा है किसी ने? यू आर कैसे, तो आपने उनको कैसे व्यू किया? हाउ यू इंटरप्रेटेड देयर पोस्चर? अच्छा लगा आपको देख के? नहीं, वेरी गुड। लेजी से हैं, ढीले से हैं, सभी टीचर है मर गए फिर तो नहीं, सभी नहीं होंगे, सभी नहीं होंगे। अच्छा, शरीफ है, ओके 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 जो ज्यादा ढीला है वो शरीफ है। फिर तो आप मेरे को गलत सिग्नल दे दोगे, मैं तो स्ट्रेट खड़ी हूँ ओके। अब ये चीज कई टीचर्स में होती है। कैसे होती है आप देखिएगा। It may happen that a person may slump as a consequence of having grown with the people who slump. तो जब आपने 10 टीचर ऐसे देखे तो आपके भी वो अनइंटेंशनली आपके जेस्चर में आपके भी वैसा पोस्टर बन गया। हाँ, टीचर ऐसे पढ़ाता है तो ऐसे खड़ा रहता है तो ठीक है, क्या फर्क पड़ता है अगर मैं भी रिलैक्स से खड़े हो जाते हैं। तो अब जो हम कहते हैं ना सेंसिटिव हो टीचर नॉन वर्बल, उसके लिए भी यहाँ ये इम्पोर्टेंट है कि अब मैं यहाँ आपको कहूंगी कि अगर आप स्लम्प करते हैं बिकॉज ऑफ दिस रीजन, आप गलत नहीं थे, पर दिस इज द टाइम टू चेंज योरसेल्फ। क्योंकि ये जो सिग्नल दे रहा है ना आपके स्टूडेंट्स को, ये कोई अच्छा सा सिग्नल नहीं दे रहा है टीचर का। अगर आप चाहते हैं ना कि ऐसी इमेज बनाए कि लोग आपको कहें भी हाँ भाई टीचर हो तो ऐसा हो, ठीक है, हाँ भाई ये टीचर असर्ट अच्छा करता है, तो फिर आपको अपना पोस्चर बदलना पड़ेगा, ठीक है। सो टीचर का पोस्चर कहना, जो इफेक्टिव टीचर है उसका पोस्चर रिलैक्स्ड होगा, ठीक है। ऐसे भी नहीं हुए ऐसे एंड स्ट्रेट खड़े हो गए, वो भी पोस्चर गलत है, और बिल्कुल झुक गए, वो भी पोस्चर गलत है। तो जो इनइफेक्टिव टीचर्स हैं वो टेंस हैं, रिजिड टाइप के हैं और स्लाउच करते हैं, सैगिंग करते हैं, और जो रिलैक्स जो इफेक्टिव टीचर्स हैं उनका पोस्चर बड़ा बैलेंस्ड पोस्चर। So if you are not means sensitive to this type of posture, then you please start doing it. अब ये देखिएगा, अगर मान लो मैंने तो अभी स्टैंडिंग का तो मैंने कर दिया, आप सिटिंग में देखो किस तरह से, एंड पीछे बढ़ के और झुक के बैठे हुए हैं, तो दिस इज द स्लम्प टाइप ऑफ, दिस इज नॉट ए राइट टाइप ऑफ पोस्चर। वैसे भी आपकी बैक के लिए भी शायद ठीक नहीं होगा। एक है बड़ा फोर्स्ड अपराइट। अब देखो पीछे इनकी बैक सीट के साथ नहीं लगी हुई है, थोड़ा आगे बैठ के बोले हैं, ऐसे लगता है अभी भागे के भागे। एंड दिस टाइप ऑफ पोस्चर इवन व्हेन मैं कल लूंगी ग्रुप डिस्कशंस का भी फॉर अपीयरिंग इन इंटरव्यू आल्सो, इस तरह के पोस्चर में नहीं बैठा सकता। जो पॉइज्ड रिलैक्स टाइप का टीचर है, इफेक्टिव टीचर का है, मान लो आप लैब में या वर्कशॉप में, वैसे तो हम कहते हैं मत बैठो, कीप मूविंग इन द क्लास, पर जब आप बैठते हैं तो दिस इज द राइट पोस्चर, लास्ट वन इज द राइट पोस्चर। जेस्चर्स पे आती हूँ मैं। दे आर बिकॉज बाय योर हैंड्स, आर्म्स, लेग्स। तो पहले पोस्चर की बात हुई, अब हम जेस्चर्स पे आ गए हैं। जेस्चर्स कैन बी यूज्ड टू रीइंफोर्स व्हाट टीचर्स से इन क्लास। कोई मुझे ये जेस्चर करके दिखाएगा? Anybody? Anybody who can demonstrate this gesture? I can invite any person from the studio also. जब आप कहते हो दिस थिंग इज सो बिग, आपने क्या कर दिया? रिइंफोर्स कर दिया कि वो बहुत बड़ा है. एक्शन ऑफ गैदरिंग अप. अब आप जब स्टूडेंट आपसे बात कर रहा है और आप अपना अटेंडेंस रजिस्टर उठाते हो, अपना सामान पाइल अप कर रहे हो, तो उसको क्या सिग्नल दे रहे हो बिना बोले? जल्दी बता, मैंने जाना है, काम खत्म कर अपना. सही है, राइट? सो आप समिंग अप करवा रहे हो. सो एक्शन ऑफ गैदरिंग अप वंस मटेरियल सिग्नल्स डिजायर टू एंड द कन्वर्सेशन. आपने कभी देखा होगा आपके स्टूडेंट्स क्या करते हैं, जब 45 1 घंटे का या 50 मिनट का जितना भी आपका सेशन होता है, जब वो सेशन थोड़ा एंड की ओर आ रहा होता है, तो स्टूडेंट्स क्या करते हैं? नोटबुक बंद कर देते हैं. तो टीचर चाहे घड़ी देखे ना देखे, स्टूडेंट्स आपकी घड़ी बन जाते हैं, कहते हैं अभी टाइम हो गया है, अब बस कर दो. ठीक है? सो आप जो जेस्चर स्टूडेंट के आपको कुछ मैसेज दे गए. अब जेस्चर्स होने कैसे चाहिए? टेक केयर ऑफ सर्टेन थिंग्स रिगार्डिंग जेस्चर्स. पहली बात है, वेरी योर जेस्चर्स. से यू वांट टू एम्फसाइज ए पॉइंट, तो आप ऐसे करोगे, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, आपका जेस्चर ये है. ठीक है? आप कहते हो नहीं ये नहीं चलेगा, आपका जेस्चर बदल गया. सेम जेस्चर नहीं चल रहा सबके लिए. यू डिस्क्राइब साइज, इट्स सो बिग, आप ये नहीं कहोगे इट इज सो बिग, आपका जेस्चर बदल गया है. तो जब क्लास में पढ़ाते हैं, आपका सेम जेस्चर नहीं चलना चाहिए. देन अवॉइड कंटिन्यूअस जेस्चर्स. अब मैंने एक टीचर को देखा है, उसका फेस कभी कभी दिखता है, क्यों? हर वक्त ऐसे चलते हैं. तो अपनी आर्म्स और जो मूवमेंट्स हैं वो इतने ज्यादा मत करो कि वो डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग बन जाए. वॉच टाइमिंग. अब इसमें है, जेस्चर शुड अकम्पनी द ओरल थॉट, नॉट प्रीसीड और फॉलो इट. ऐसे नहीं कहो इट इज सो बिग और फिर कहो ऐसे, या आप पहले कर दो जो फिर कहो इट वाज सो बिग. नहीं, वो दोनों इकट्ठे चलने हैं. आप कहते हैं ऐसे तो कोई नहीं करता होगा, कोई करते हैं तभी ये चीजें स्टडीज में आई है. देन इज दी अडैप्ट योर जेस्चर. मान लो आपका हाल, मैंने देखा है कई जो क्लासेस हैं वहां पे 100 स्टूडेंट्स भी होते हैं, तो आपका जो जेस्चर है सबको दिखाई देना चाहिए. अगर आपने जेस्चर अपने लिए ही किया तो क्या किया? सो यू सी दैट एवरीबॉडी इन योर रूम, in your classroom is able to watch your gestures, right? That you have to adapt to the situations. Distracting gestures. आपने कभी नोट किया है किसी के? पहले बताओ डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग जेस्चर किस तरह का हो सकता है. मैंने थोड़ा सा हिंट दिया हुआ है अपने हेडिंग में. Anybody from any center? हाँ. तो किस तरह के जेस्चर करते हैं? सिर में दर्द हो रहा है तो वो वाकई आपको बता रहा है भी मेरे सिर में दर्द है. अच्छा, आपने ओरल कम्युनिकेशन में एक वो पढ़ा था, वर्बल वायरस. यू रिमेम्बर क्या होता है वर्बल वायरस? ओके. और वर्बल वायरस क्या होता है स्पीकिंग स्किल्स में? तकिया कलाम. याद आया कि नहीं? आपका एक वर्ड तकिया कलाम बन जाता है. जैसे कि ठीक है ना, हर सेंटेंस के बाद आई हैव सीन टीचर्स सेइंग लाइक दिस. ठीक है ना, ठीक होता है ना, फिर थोड़ी देर बाद होता है ना, फिर बार बार इट्स ओके, इट्स ओके. ये था आपकी स्पीकिंग स्किल्स का वर्बल वायरस. ऐसे ही नॉन वर्बल भी वायरस होता है, वो आता है आपके जेस्चर्स में. अब आप सोचो कि किस तरह के जेस्चर्स होते हैं. एक मैंने दिया ना हाथ. कईयों को मैं आपको ये लाइव एग्जांपल देती हूँ. हमारे ही यहाँ पे एक एम्प्लॉय रहे हैं, तो हर वक्त ना बाल को ऐसे 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 ठुकराल जी मेरे को देख रहे हैं कि कौन है, मैं नाम नहीं बताऊंगी। सो हर वक्त बाल पे ऐसे, नो दिस इज नॉन वर्बल, अनइंटेंशनल, पर दूसरे को नोट हो रहा है कि ये बार बार ऐसे गर्ल्स को नेकलेस पे हाथ पढ़ाते वक्त, तो ये क्यों कर रहे हो, दुपट्टे को बार बार राइट, ऐसा नहीं है कि जेंट्स में नहीं है, टाई को बार बार, बट दिस इज डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग टाइप ऑफ जेस्चर्स एंड इट शुड बी अवॉइडेड। और है ये अनइंटेंशनल, आपको पता ही नहीं चलता, हाथ में नोट है तो नोट ऐसे खड़खड़ाते रहो। सो रिपीटिंग टू ऑफन, ठीक है, कोई भी चीज वो डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग हो जाती है दूसरे पर्सन के लिए, क्लास के लिए। जैसे बार बार गला ठीक करना बोल कुछ भी नहीं रहे हो, बट दिस इज डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग। फिजिटिंग, ऐसे ऐसे जब आप नर्वस होते हैं तो क्या करते हैं, बार बार ऐसे हिल गए, फिर इस तरह हिल गए, फिर लाइक दैट। प्लेइंग विद हेयर, जो मैंने अभी बताया है। प्लेइंग विद मनी, हाथ में मनी है, चेंज है, खड़खड़ाते रहो उसको। प्लेइंग विद कार कीज, मैं सबसे ज्यादा जो मैंने टीचर्स में ऑब्जर्व किया हुआ है, हाथ में चाक होता है, भी चाक रख दो ना, नहीं, चाक को पकड़ के ऐसे ऐसे गुलाई से हिलाई जाएंगे पढ़ाते वक्त। सो दिस बिकम्स डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग फॉर द स्टूडेंट। टीचर के लिए अपने लिए भी अच्छा नहीं है, चाक को स्किन के लिए बहुत अच्छी चीज नहीं है, तो खाली टाइम में उसको रख दो ना, नहीं उससे प्ले करते रहना है हाथ में साथ साथ। अब मेरे को बताओ, सच सच बताना, आप में से किसी का कोई डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग जेस्चर है? जरा सोचो। एनीबॉडी, एनी सेंटर, आप टीच कर रही हैं, आपका कोई डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग जेस्चर तो होगा। याद करो कि क्या करते हैं, कई लोग हाथ मलते हैं, सोचिएगा। शेयर करने में कोई गलत नहीं है, इट्स राइट जो है ना, ये आपका वर्बल वायरस है। अब मैं नॉन वर्बल वायरस पे आई हुई हूँ, विच इज डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग योर टीचिंग। आपको पता नहीं चल रहा है। हो सकता है कई स्टूडेंट्स आपको कहते हो, वो वाले मैडम जो ऐसे जैसे करते हैं, जब आप कोई चीज बार बार करते हो तो वो दूसरे के पर्सन के सामने लाइमलाइट में आ जाती है। एनी पर्सन, एनी सेंटर। हाँ जी, वैसे ये तो आई वुड से कि टीचर के लिए नहीं होना चाहिए, पर मैंने देखा है कि काफी मेल टीचर्स जेब में हाथ डाल के पढ़ाते हैं। अब जब जेब में हाथ डालना जो है ना, दैट इज रिलैक्स टाइप ऑफ थिंग, पर जबकि आपकी जो टीचिंग है ना, वो एक फॉर्मल टाइप ऑफ प्लेस, तो वो लॉन्ग ऑफ टाइम के लिए जेब में हाथ डालना, पर ये आप देखोगे बहुत लोग करते हैं। सो कम आउट ऑफ इट। इफ ये पॉइंट, मैंने ये क्वेश्चन क्यों पूछा है आपसे, अगर आपका कोई भी डिस्ट्रैक्टिंग जेस्चर है, आप उसको अगर खुद एनालाइज कर सकते हैं तो बहुत अच्छा है, एंड स्टार्ट प्रैक्टिसिंग इट। इस जेस्चर को निकाल देना है अपनी टीचिंग से, अपने आप से, ठीक है। सो यू आर टू बी मीन्स अलर्ट अबाउट दिस थिंग। सो दिस वाज अबाउट पोस्चर्स एंड जेस्चर्स। अब मैं आती हूँ बॉडी मूवमेंट्स पे। बॉडी मूवमेंट्स में क्या आता है, हैंड आर्म बॉडी मूवमेंट्स कैन रिवील ओपननेस, सस्पिशन, ऑनेस्टी, कॉन्फिडेंस, नर्वसनेस और डिफेंसिवनेस। आप अपनी आर्म्स की पोजीशन कैसे रखते हैं? कई लोग होते हैं बात करते हुए बार बार ऐसे करते हैं, आई डोंट नो अब ये क्या चीज सिग्नल करते हैं, ठीक है। आप सिर्फ अपनी जहाँ क्लास से पढ़ा रहे हैं वही खड़े रहना चाहते हैं, या क्लास में थोड़ा मूव करते हैं, मूवमेंट करते हैं? आप मूवमेंट कितना फास्ट करते हैं, आपकी पेस क्या है, ये भी कुछ बोल रही है स्टूडेंट्स को। जब आप बहुत भागते भागते जाते हैं ना, तो वो लगता है कि जैसे पता नहीं जॉगिंग कर रहे हैं टीचर्स। आपको उस पेस को अगर आप उसको थोड़ा फास्ट पर कंट्रोल में रखते हैं, तो वो सिग्नल करता है कि आप एनर्जेटिक हैं, एंथुजियाज्म है आपको टीचिंग के लिए, तो वो सिग्नल डिफरेंट है। जो बहुत ज्यादा मूवमेंट करता है, कोई भी चीज, चाहे जेस्चर्स हो चाहे बॉडी मूवमेंट्स हो, जब ओवर हो जाते हैं तो वो गलत इंप्रेशन देते हैं। हाँ, होना चाहिए। स्टूडेंट डिस्टर्ब नहीं होते, आपको स्टूडेंट को कंट्रोल करना है। राइट। अगर आप उसके पास जाके खड़े हो जाते, मैं अभी आऊंगी इन चीजों पे, और भी कई चीजें हैं ऐसी। तो जब आप स्टूडेंट के पास पहुंचते हो तो वो कहता है अच्छा टीचर के मैं डायरेक्ट सुपरविजन में, कंट्रोल में हूँ। तो रादर कई बार क्लासरूम मैनेजमेंट की ये स्ट्रेटेजी भी होती है दैट यू गो टू दैट, और एक ये क्लोजनेस भी लाता है, कंट्रोल भी है और एक फ्रेंडलीनेस भी लाता है कि हाँ टीचर तुम्हारे साथ है, राइट। पर उसमें मैं अभी आऊंगी कि आप कितने क्लोज तक मूवमेंट करते वक्त जा सकते, बिकॉज दैट हैज डिफरेंट मीनिंग फॉर डिफरेंट कल्चर्स एंड डिफरेंट एज ग्रुप्स। Then teacher who slouches or twitches, I think, when talking to students is not perceived as a conflict. तो ये चीजें नहीं होनी चाहिए। अब मैंने अभी कही थी आर्म्स की बात, फोल्डेड आर्म्स, इस तरह का जो आप रखते हो ना, shown here also. This indicates a defensive type of position. बात नहीं करना चाहते हैं आपसे, हम बस अपने तक ही रहना चाहते हैं, मेरी टेरिटरी को आप मत छेड़ो, want to keep some different distance. Arms on hips, आप अकड़ के खड़े हो जाते हो, ठीक है। जब आप अकड़ के ऐसे खड़े हुए हो तो अपने आप ही एक जैसे गुस्सा आता है ना जब आप, तो आप ऐसे खड़े हो जाते हो, फिर आप आराम से ऐसे नहीं खड़े रहते हो। सो दैट शोज दिस टाइप ऑफ बिहेवियर। आर्म्स बिहाइंड बैक इंडिकेट्स ईज एंड कंट्रोल। तो आपको ये इन चीजों का भी ध्यान रखना होगा। कई बार हो सकता है आप इतना गुस्से में ना हो, पर आपको जो ऐसे अकड़ के खड़े रहने का है ना, वो पता टीचर बहुत गुस्से में थे नहीं आप, तो वो जो एक रॉन्ग सिग्नल स्टूडेंट को देगा। फेस एंड आईज बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है, बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट है। अगर टाइम बचता तो मैं आपको एक एक्सरसाइज करवा के देती, जिसमें हो सकता है लिसनिंग स्किल्स में ये एक्सरसाइज करवाई भी गई हो, जहाँ पे हम कहते हैं कि दो लोग इकट्ठे बात करें पर देखे ना। मैडम ने करवा दिया है? नहीं, मैंने वैसे वो करवानी नहीं है क्योंकि वो दैट इज मोर विद लिसनिंग। मैं तो आईज में बहुत कुछ और फेस और आईज में लेके चलती हूँ। फेस एंड आईज, फेस में आता है फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन, दे इंक्लूड्स योर आई कांटेक्ट, योर स्माइल्स, पाउंड्स। वो कहते हैं टीचर ने तारीफ तो की थी पर उसके जो फेस पे अजीब सी मुस्कुराहट थी, वो कुछ ठीक से नहीं लगी मुझको। जब आप फ्राउन करते हैं ना, वो एक सिग्नल आप उसको दे देते हैं, राइट। आईज कैन बी स्पेशली एक्सप्रेसिव, दे आर द मिरर। आप कुछ नहीं बोलते हैं, आईज बहुत कुछ बोल देती हैं। सो विंडोज, दे आर द विंडोज टू द सोल। आपके अंदर क्या है वो आंखें बताती हैं। लेट मी शो यू सम ऑफ दीज थिंग्स। क्या ये सारी चीजें एक ही बात बता रही हैं? क्या कह रहे हैं ये फेस? बोल कुछ नहीं रही है पर बहुत कुछ बोल रहे हैं। थक गए भाई, बस करो टीचर जी पढ़ाना, नींद आ रही है, ठीक है, बहुत अलर्ट है जी, बड़ा अच्छा लेक्चर है। बोल कुछ नहीं रहे, आपके सिर्फ एक्सप्रेशंस। आप खुश हैं, वाह क्या कहने हैं, क्या लेक्चर है, राइट। गुस्सा, क्या पढ़ा रहा है ये, एग्जाम्पल नहीं देना आता इसको। कुछ भी नहीं बोला पर बोल गए। आप वाइवा ले रहे हैं और आपके फेस पे ये एक्सप्रेशन है। आप क्या कह रहे हो, क्या टाइम वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, क्या पढ़ के आया है ये आपके। अब वो उसे जो दो क्वेश्चंस आगे के देने हैं ना, जो आप, वो आपका फेस देख के कहेगा छोड़ो भाई, इस टीचर से तो छोड़ो। सो जो कन्वे मैक्सिमम थिंग, अगर आपको याद हो तो जो मैंने पहले स्लाइड दिखाई थी, देयर वी डिपिक्टेड कि फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन जो है वो 55% ऑफ द टोटल नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन कम्युनिकेट करते, सबसे ज्यादा वही लेके चलते। ये देखिए, गुस्सा, जाए हंस रहे हैं, डर है तो दांत भींच जाते हैं। ये देखिए, ऐसे होता है, सारा वो एक्सप्रेशन बदल गया। सो ये देखिए फेशियल एक्सप्रेशंस आपको क्या क्या बोल जाते हैं। सो फेशियल एक्सप्रेशंस क्या हैं? दे शो एंथुसियाज्म, एक चमक आती है जो टीचर के फेस पे होनी चाहिए ना। उसका फेस बोले कि वो बहुत ही इच्छुक है, एंथुसियास्टिक है टू टीच। वर्बल तो बात की बात है, पर उसके फेस पे वो एनर्जी होनी चाहिए, वो एंथुसियाज्म होना चाहिए, वो कंफर्ट होना चाहिए फेस पे, दैट कन्वेज टू द स्टूडेंट, जो स्टूडेंट को एक कंफर्टेबल जोन में ले आए कि हाँ ये टीचर मार नहीं देगा इससे क्वेश्चन पूछा तो, उस तरह की स्माइल होनी चाहिए टीचर के फेस पे. सो स्पीकर्स हु आर, आई वुड से हियर टीचर्स हु आर बिजी इन, अपने नोट्स लेके बैठे हैं, हाँ जी ऐसे है, दे आर नॉट गुड टीचर्स. जो अपनी स्क्रीन पे पीछे देख देख के पढ़ाते हैं, दे आर नॉट गुड टीचर्स. यू हैव टू फेस एंड द ऑडियंस. सो ये जो टीचर स्पीकर्स हैं ये अच्छे नहीं होते हैं. सो टीचर्स कम्युनिकेट्स मोर एक्सीडेंटली बाय हिज और हर फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन. आपने क्वेश्चन पूछा, स्टूडेंट ने खड़े होकर जवाब दिया, ठीक है, जब स्टूडेंट वो जवाब दे रहा है, आपके फेस पे क्या इंप्रेशन है, उसको सिग्नल दे रहा है कि वो सेंटेंस भी कंप्लीट करे कि ना करे. गिव हिम दैट, ऐसा प्लेजेंट फेस, ऐसा फेस रखें आप जिससे स्टूडेंट को एक कॉन्फिडेंस मिले कि हाँ बोल, जो तुझे आता है बोल. तो वो एक्सप्रेशन जो है, वो कंफर्ट जो है, वो टीचर ने स्टूडेंट को देनी है थ्रू फेशियल एक्सप्रेशंस. आई कंटेक्ट, आई थिंक एक चीज तो सारे जानते ही हैं, कोई भी टीचर ऐसे तो नहीं पढ़ाएगा, ठीक है. अब है अब बड़ी ईमानदारी से मुझे बताना कि जब आपने पहला लेक्चर दिया था, कितना कुछ याद है अपना पहला लेक्चर? एवरीबॉडी रिमेम्बर्स, ओके. तो जब पहला लेक्चर था तो आपने कैसे आई कांटेक्ट रखा था? सच बताना, कोई शेयर करना चाहेगा अपना एक्सपीरियंस आई कांटेक्ट? नीचे देख के, चलो मुझे एक स्टूडियो से आवाज आई है कि थोड़ा नीचे देख के पढ़ाया. और कोई? हाँ जी, जब आपने, हाँ जी, ज्यादा टाइम अटेंडेंस में लगा दिया, ठीक है, ये होता है यूज ऑफ टाइम इन द क्लासरूम. टाइम भी बोलता है, आपको पता है टाइम बोलता है. टाइम इज नॉन वर्बल पर वो बोलता है. हम देखेंगे किस तरह से क्लास में बोलता है टाइम. तो आप देखोगे कि मेरे पास एक स्टूडेंट है, एक सेमिनार देता है. ओह सॉरी, पहले मुझे कोई सेंटर से जवाब देना चाहेगा? अपना फर्स्ट लेक्चर याद करो और देखो कि उसमें आपका फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन कैसा था और आपका आई कांटेक्ट कैसा था. तो एनी सेंटर, इतने सेंटर्स जुड़े हैं, तो आई रिक्वेस्ट कि किसी भी सेंटर से मुझे कोई भी वॉलंटियर कर सकता है. जरूरी नहीं कि मैं नेगेटिव ही सुनूंगी कि फेशियल आई कांटेक्ट नहीं था. देयर मे बी सम पीपल, सम टीचर्स जिनका पहले लेक्चर में आई कांटेक्ट वाह वाला था. तो दोनों चीजें आप शेयर कर सकते हैं. I see movement in Sirsa. Somebody wants to interact on that. JCDM Engineering College Sirsa. No. Okay. Vidya Bhavan Polytechnic Udaipur. Very good. मेघा, हाँ जी मेघा from Delhi, बताइएगा जी. बहुत अच्छा कहा मेघा. मैं अभी मेरी कुछ एंड की जो स्लाइड्स होंगी वो इसी पे होंगी कि बैक बेंचर कौन होते हैं. Who are backbenchers? Why people? What type of students like to sit on the last bench? Okay. बिल्कुल, फॉर द सेक ऑफ अटेंडिंग द क्लास. और ऐसे में जब अभी बात हो रही थी मूवमेंट की, तो क्लास में मूवमेंट जो है वो इसलिए भी जरूरी है कि आप जस्ट एक चक्कर काट के एंड तक आ जाते हैं वापस. दैट कन्वेज की टीचर जो है ना, वो आप उस टीचर की आईज के कंट्रोल में हो. और आई कांटेक्ट भी इस चीज में हेल्प करता है. जब आपका आई कांटेक्ट बैक बेंच से जाता है तो मैं आती हूँ अभी उस पर कि टीचर्स किस तरह आई कांटेक्ट को मीन्स यूज कर सकते हैं फॉर इफेक्टिव टीचिंग. वेरी गुड. तो मेरे ख्याल में मैं एक और पूछ रही थी कि आपका जो टीचिंग फर्स्ट लेक्चर था जब आपने पढ़ाना शुरू किया, तो वो उसमें आपके फेशियल एक्सप्रेशंस और आई कांटेक्ट कैसा था? शुड नहीं मैं कह रही हूँ, शुड नहीं मैं कह रही हूँ, आपने क्या किया? ओके ओके okay okay. So any other person who wants to share the experience for eye contact, facial expression of the first lecture given by you? हाँ जी. Sorry, I could not get you. What's your name? Okay. Okay okay. Thank you, Dr. Tapsi जी. हाँ जी बताएं. Very good, very good, very good to share the things. अब फर्स्ट रो पे था. I have seen why I am asking this question. Actually, when we are teaching, we are to develop these type of skills among our students also. तो जितना हमको कम एक्सपोजर मिला, वो चीजें हमारे फर्स्ट लेक्चर्स में रिफ्लेक्ट हो गई. One student came to me and shared कि भी जब मैंने सेमिनार देना है तो मैं नजर से नजर नहीं मिला सकता. तो मैंने कहा भी आई कांटेक्ट, कहते मैं छत की ओर देख के पढ़ा सकता सेमिनार दे सकता. तो ये जो चीज है, ये जो आपकी गलती नहीं है अगर किसी ने नहीं किया, क्योंकि जितना मतलब आपके जो फर्स्ट फ्यू लेक्चर्स हैं, हो सकता है बाद में आप देखेंगे जितना एक्सपीरियंस बढ़ता जाता है, इंटरेक्शन बढ़ता जाता है, उतना आप देर होते जाते हो और वही चीजें एक्सप्रेशंस में आ जाती हैं. सो आई कांटेक्ट बनाकर बात करनी, ये हमें इंस्टीट्यूशंस में, आई वुड से इन टेक्निकल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में ऐसा एक्सपोजर स्टूडेंट्स को देना चाहिए कि वो चीज सीख कर सके. तो आई कांटेक्ट जो है दैट इज मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट. मैंने कहा उसको कि कहते कि मैं जो देखता हूँ किसी स्टूडेंट को सेमिनार में, अपने ही फ्रेंड को, तो जो आता है भूल जाता है उसको. एम आई राइट? तभी आपने सिर्फ सोचा कि चलो पहली रो को देख लेते हैं, बाकी को छोड़ देते हैं. सो you have to develop this skill. So eyes are expressing in telegraphing joy, sadness, anger, confusion, everything. And when you means have eye contact, you are more confident in it. Even जब हम कहते हैं ना appearing in interviews, वो सेक्शन शायद आएंगे. Even in group discussions, eye contact is very important. Otherwise ये कुछ और ही सिग्नल करता है. तो अब आप ये बताएं कि लैक ऑफ आई कांटेक्ट क्या बताता है? कब आपने कई लोगों से नजरें चुराई भी होंगी. लैक ऑफ कॉन्फिडेंस, जब आप कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं होते हैं तो आप नजर नहीं मिलाते. और क्या है? वेरी गुड. आई एम हियरिंग फ्रॉम व्हेन यू डू समथिंग रॉन्ग, तो आप में इतनी हिम्मत नहीं होती कि नजर से नजर मिला सके. और कब होता है? गुड good, coming up in a nice way. Let me this I am hearing from the studio, let me hear from the centers also. हाँ जी, वेरी गुड वेरी गुड. ये है बड़ा सही मानना. जब आप प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं हो तो आप नजरें चुराते हो. और ये भी नहीं है जब स्टूडेंट होमवर्क करके नहीं आता तो वो भी नजरें चुराता है कि टीचर मेरे को देख ना ले. ठीक है? Am I right? बहुत सही कहा आपने. चलो लेट मी हियर फ्रॉम एनी अदर सेंटर आल्सो. कोई और सेंटर डिस्कस करना चाहेगा इस चीज को? और क्या रीजन हो सकता है? बहुत सही चल रहे हैं आप. जब बहुत प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं होते, भाई अकेले नहीं हंसना, हमको भी हंसा दो. यू आर फ्री टू शेयर वेदर इट इज गुड और बैड. हाँ जी, गाजियाबाद से, यहीं से मुझे हंसी के फुवारे सुनाई दिए हैं. तो कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? सो चलो नहीं कहते तो हम कहते हैं. सो व्हेन you are not interested तो आपकी आईज में वो एक्सप्रेशन आ जाता है, आप नजर चुराते हो कि क्या बोल रहा है ये। When you don't want to pay attention to the topic, तब भी आप नजर चुराते हो। जब आप किसी चीज से एम्बेरसिंग फील कर रहे हो तब, जब आप ऑनेस्ट नहीं हो तब। बहुत कम लोग होते हैं जो अपनी इन चीजों को छुपा के भी आई कांटेक्ट रखते हैं। बहुत कम लोग हो सकते हैं जो जिनका दिल ही ऐसा हो कि इसको धोखा देना ही देना है। बहुत कम लोग होते हैं, अदरवाइज ये हमारे एक्सप्रेशंस में आ जाती है। नाउ लेट मी आस्क यू, व्हाई टीचर्स यूज आई कांटेक्ट? किस लिए करते हैं टीचर्स? मैं एक एग्जांपल आपको दे देती हूँ। टीचर वांट टू नो हु इज अटेंटिव। आपकी एक आपने कहा ना पहली रो पे नजर गई थी, आपकी एक नजर सारी तरफ जाए, आप देखोगे कि किस तरह स्टूडेंट की हलचल शुरू हो जाती है कि टीचर तो हमारे, आप बाई मूवमेंट आप उनके पास नहीं गए हैं, पर आपका जस्ट एक आंख का वो पैनोरामिक व्यू जो है ना, स्टूडेंट में एक अलर्टनेस ला देता है भी नहीं भाई टीचर तो देख रहा है। ठीक है, सो टीचर्स यूज दिस आई कांटेक्ट फॉर नोइंग who are the students who are attentive in the class। और क्या है जिससे टीचर्स जो जानते हैं? हाँ जी, वेरी गुड वेरी गुड वेरी गुड। तो आप जब स्टूडेंट आपका कोई जवाब दे रहा है और आप उससे पूरा आई कांटेक्ट रख के बात सुनते हैं, तो दैट गिव्स द इम्प्रेशन टू द स्टूडेंट कि हाँ जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ वो अच्छी तरह से सुना जा रहा है, एंड दैट इज व्हाट द स्टूडेंट वांट्स। और ये आप इसको एक ओपन एनवायरनमेंट दे रहे हो बिना कुछ कहे स्टूडेंट को कि हाँ जी जो कहना है कह दो। गुड, और वेरी गुड। और किस लिए टीचर आई कांटेक्ट क्लास में यूज कर सकता है? हाँ जी, वेरी गुड। तो स्टूडेंट को थोड़ा कंफर्टेबल कर देगी। कोई चीज क्लासरूम मैनेजमेंट के लिए भी होती है इस चीज के बारे में? हाँ जी, कंसंट्रेशन। ओके, हाँ जी, ये गाजियाबाद से है ना? हाँ जी, हाँ जी, बताएं। हाँ जी सर, to maintain the discipline in the class। Okay, okay। anything else? कोई और भी गाजियाबाद से इंटरेक्ट करना चाह रहा है? Anybody else? Students are attentive or not, वो तो हमने कर लिया। और कुछ? From any other center, okay? From any other center? Let me move from Ghaziabad। वो चाहते हैं अच्छा गाजियाबाद से चलेंगे मैडम। ऐसे है गाजियाबाद वालों, आई कांटेक्ट मेरा अभी भी आपके साथ रहा है। हाँ जी, ओके, वेरी गुड वेरी गुड। जैसे कि आपने किसी स्टूडेंट को बात करते देख लिया, आप उसको पब्लिकली डांटना नहीं चाहते हो, और आपकी आईज उसके ऊपर थोड़ा सा रुकी और चली गई, तो वो कहता मर गई ये तो दिख क्या मैम। बट एट द सेम टाइम रिमेंबर द डिफरेंस बिटवीन आई कांटेक्ट एंड स्टेयरिंग। ये ना कि आपकी नजर रुकी रह जाए, तो वो आई कांटेक्ट नहीं है, दैट इज स्टेयरिंग, दैट शुड नॉट बी डन। सो बिल्कुल बिल्कुल, वेरी गुड वेरी गुड। एक चीज और, अब मेरे को आपका सेंटर बिल्कुल अच्छी तरह दिखाई दे रहा है। आई सी थर्ड बेंच देयर इज वन गर्ल विद लाइट ग्रीन शर्ट, एम आई राइट? लाइट ग्रीन टुवर्ड्स द वॉल, अगर कलर ठीक पहचाना जा रहा है। मैं इस चीज को क्यों एम्फेसाइज करके कह रही हूँ? देयर इज रीजन फॉर इट। कई बार आप देखेंगे कि क्लास में जब आप क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं तो कोई किसी स्टूडेंट को जब नहीं आता तो वो क्या करता है, वो जान के नजर नहीं मिलाता टीचर से कि मेरे से क्वेश्चन ना पूछा जाए। अब टीचर कहता है बताओ आप, तो वो इधर उधर देखता है जान के, मुझे कहा राइट। तो इसलिए मैं कह रही हूँ कि आप कहते हो ग्रीन शर्ट वाली, आई डोंट नो द नेम, पर वो जो आई कांटेक्ट है वो स्टूडेंट ब्लफ करना चाहता है। मैडम ने अभी हाथ खड़ा कर लिया है, नाम मुझे नहीं मालूम। हाँ जी, व्हाट्स योर नेम? शिखा। तो शिखा जी, मैंने आपसे क्वेश्चन पूछना है। सो पॉइंट इज कि जब कभी क्लास में इस तरह होता है तो स्टूडेंट्स जो है वो नजर नहीं मिलाते हैं कि ये क्वेश्चन हमसे ना पूछा। तो होमवर्क नहीं किया होता, असाइनमेंट नहीं की होती, तो स्टूडेंट नहीं चाहता कि मेरे से आई कांटेक्ट टीचर का हो, राइट। सो टीचर इसको यूज करते हैं, हु इज प्रिपेयर टू आंसर ए क्वेश्चन। आप देखेंगे कि आईज में चमक आती है, ये थी मैडम। सो ओके, आंख में, यू वांट टू शेयर समथिंग? नो, ओके। तो आपकी जो, हाँ जी, हाँ जी बताइए शिखा जी। नहीं, मैंने आपको उसके लिए नहीं बताया था, मैंने जस्ट ये बताया, एक एग्जांपल दे रही थी आपको। एज क्या करूं मैं, एज एग्जांपल यूज किया है कि जब कोई स्टूडेंट नजर नहीं मिलाता तो टीचर क्या करते हैं, टीचर स्टूडेंट नजर नहीं मिलाता क्योंकि क्वेश्चन का आंसर नहीं आता, तो वो इधर उधर देखता है। अब टीचर की तो नजरों में आ जाता है, जो इधर उधर देखा तो समझ गए कि पर्सन इज नॉट प्रिपेयर टू आंसर ए क्वेश्चन। तो टीचर ने अगर वो शरारत कर रहा है और उससे पूछना है कि ओके, तो टीचर जब कहता है ना ओके यू टेल, कहते हैं मैं नहीं हूँ। सो वी से ओके ग्रीन शर्ट एंड देन आई केम टू द नेम, क्योंकि मुझे इस सेंटर्स में नहीं पता, वहां आपको हो सकता है नाम पता होगा, तो आप भाई नेम भी कह सकते हैं। हाँ जी, आपसे कहा है। सो टू सी, थैंक यू शिखा। So who is prepared to answer a question? This also teachers know from the eye contact. Who has completed homework or assignment? This also, आंखें बोलती हैं students की, right? So whether the student is telling lie, ये सारा जो है आंखें students की, teachers की बयां करती हैं। So then we come to the para language. अब ये क्या है? It is how you say and not what you say. बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है, राइट? आप नहीं बोलते और बोल जाते हैं। ये सारी चीजें क्या हैं? आपका स्पीच बिहेवियर क्या है, वोकल टोन क्या है, काफी चीजें हैं इसमें। वोकल टोन क्या है आपकी, देन यू हैव स्पीड क्या है, ये बदलेगी वक्त माहौल के साथ। वी विल सी हाउ, बट स्पीड, पिच क्या है, लेंथ ऑफ पॉजेस कितने हैं। बड़े बड़े पॉज तो नहीं देखते लगाते हैं आप कि ऐसे लगे कि भूल गए आगे। या स्टूडेंट से जब आप क्वेश्चन पूछ रहे हो तो आप क्या करते हैं, ओके व्हाट वी मीन बाय आई कांटेक्ट सोनिया, तो मैंने कोई पॉज नहीं दिया बीच में, ठीक है। अब मैं कहती हूँ व्हाट वी मीन बाय आई कांटेक्ट, तो मैं सोई, पॉज ही पॉज है। अब मैं कहती हूँ सोनिया, बाकी क्वेश्चंस भूल जाते हैं कि पूछा भी क्या था। सो कितना पॉज देना है, इट्स आल्सो ए नॉन वर्बल टाइप ऑफ स्पीच बिहेवियर है आपका ये। दिस इन्फ्लुएंस, जब आप किसी से कम्युनिकेशन कर रहे होते हैं, जरूरी नहीं कि आप हाँ जी करते हैं। आपका जो गले से एक आवाज निकलती है वो बताती है कि आप क्या कर रहे हैं। वॉइस क्वालिटी क्या है, हार्श किस तरह की क्वालिटी, आर्टिकुलेशन किस तरह करते हैं। आई थिंक इनमें से काफी चीजें तो डॉक्टर तुलसी ने कर दी होंगी। आई लेट मी नॉट, वोकल, लिप कंट्रोल, ये सारा कुछ बोलता है। सो पैरा लैंग्वेज में पीपल टॉक फास्टर when they are excited or anxious, or when they are trying to persuade us or sell us something, तो आप डिफरेंट तरीके से बोलते हैं। इस पेन की बहुत यूटिलिटी है, इसका ये काम है, ये काम है, ये काम है, ये काम है, आप फास्टर हो गए। यू वांट टू परसुएड एंड सेल द थिंग। People tend to talk slower when they are depressed. हाँ ठीक है आपका, अब ये ठीक है कहना ही उसको, ये पैरा लैंग्वेज है आपकी। सो द मैसेजेस इट गिव्स आर, से मैं कुछ एग्जांपल्स देती हूँ। जब आप when you are angry or excited, या जब आप बोरडम फील कर रहे हो, या जब आप डिफेंसिव टाइप बिहेवियर में हो, तो आपका स्पीच पे क्या इफेक्ट पड़ता है? तो पड़ता है स्पीच पे इफेक्ट, क्या पड़ेगा? मान लो आप एंग्री हो, गुस्से में हो, आप आए, स्टूडेंट सारे लेट आए हैं, आपको बहुत गुस्सा आ गया, तो आपकी स्पीच पे क्या इफेक्ट आए, नॉन वर्बली। हाँ जी, एज इन टर्म्स ऑफ पैरा लैंग्वेज, पैरा वर्बल मैसेज, क्या चेंज आ गया आपकी स्पीच में? हाँ जी, इट विल बी वेरी लाउड, वेरी गुड। जब आप गुस्से में होते हो ना, खूब जल्दी जल्दी बोलते हो और खूब ऊंचा ऊंचा बोलते हो। जब आप बोर्ड फील करते हो, मैंने अभी बताया, देन टेंड्स टू बी स्लो और मोनोटोन। मतलब ये नहीं कि उतार चढ़ाव आएगा आवाज में, मोनोटोन से एक ही टोन पे बात होगी। जब आप डिफेंसिव हो तो अब्रप्टली बोलते हो, ऐसे हो गया क्योंकि घबरा गए थे। देन मैं अब दूसरी तरफ ले गई हूँ, वेरी द वॉल्यूम ऑफ योर वॉइस, प्रोटेक्ट योर वॉइस फ्रॉम स्ट्रेन, रिड्यूस द इन्फ्लुएंस ऑफ पोटेंशियल वोकल इरिटेंट्स। अब इसके लिए करना क्या होता है आपको, डोंट ऑलवेज यूज ए लाउड वॉइस टू गेन अटेंशन। कभी कभी चाहिए होती है, क्लास में बहुत शोर हो रहा है, आप एंटर करते हो, एक बार लाउड वॉइस चाहिए होगी, पर बार बार अगर करोगे तो आपको भी, आपके लिए भी ठीक नहीं है, स्टूडेंट के लिए भी नहीं। वो कहेंगे ये तो चिल्लाता है टीचर। देन प्रोटेक्ट द वॉइस फ्रॉम स्ट्रेन। कई बार होता है आपका थ्रोट सूखने लगता है, या स्पेशली जो टोबैको वगैरह लेते हैं उनको ज्यादा ये इस तरह की प्रॉब्लम आ जाती है। सो इस तरह के जो इरिटेंट्स हैं उनको आपने कंट्रोल करना है, एंड फॉर दैट मैटर आइदर यू कैन स्वेलो और you can sip water also. Point is, they non-verbally distract your communication. Then is the pitch. Pitch is the highness or lowness of the voice. I think ये monotone speaker और इसका हमने ले लिया है. Let me not go into that. Then there are certain vocalizations, and they convey meaning. Say they can be categorized into three things. One are the vocal characterizers. Then you have the vocal qualifiers and vocal segregators. इसका भी थोड़ा बहुत ले लिया है मैंने। से कैरेक्टराइजर क्या है, जैसे मैंने आपको कुछ वो दिखाई थी स्माइलीज, जैसे वो साया लेनी है, साइंग, ऐसे लंबे भी, कहाँ लेक्चर खत्म होगा, कब छुट्टी मिलेगी, राइट। इनहेलिंग, एक्सेसिव ग्रोनिंग, जेलिंग, विस्परिंग करनी, पता नहीं आपने देखा होगा क्लास में करके स्टूडेंट एक दूसरे से बात करता है। दिस टाइप ऑफ थिंग शुड नॉट बी देयर। देन द इंटेंसिटी, ये पिच के साथ आ चुकी है। वोकल सेग्रीगेटर्स हैं जो बात को सुनते हुए, मान लो स्टूडेंट का या टीचर का क्वेश्चन या आंसर लंबा जा रहा है, तो ये एक जो आप ऐसी आवाज निकालते हो वो सेग्रीगेट करता है और बताती है कि वी आर विद द स्पीकर। तो इसके लिए हम थोड़े एक और एग्जांपल भी मैं बाद में लूंगी। Then is the proxemics. What we mean by proxemics? This is the space orientation. ये मैं इसको टच के साथ दोबारा देखूंगी। This changes with the sex, age, status, and it has also cultural orientations. कई कल्चर ऐसे हैं जहाँ पे वो स्पेस ज्यादा मेंटेन करना चाहते हैं डिस्टेंस, कई जगह पे नहीं। आप छोटे बच्चों के साथ स्पेसिंग डिफरेंट हो सकती है। व्हेन यू बिकम अडल्ट, तो विद अपोजिट जेंडर वो स्पेस की ओरिएंटेशन डिफरेंट हो जाएगी। स्पेस कुछ और भी कहते हैं, दिस इज अ टाइप ऑफ पर्सनल स्पेस जिसको आप चाहते नहीं हो। कई बार होता है, आप देखोगे हम बच्चों के लिए कह देते हैं कि ठीक है ओके स्पेस इज ओके, कई बार बच्चे भी नहीं चाहते हैं कि उसका पर्सनल स्पेस में आप एंटर हो। इट्स नॉट टच, इट्स डिफरेंट देन टच। तो टच के बारे में भी हम आएंगे। देन इज योर एनवायरनमेंट। मैंने कहा ना, अच्छा गुडी एनवायरनमेंट हो, यू फील लाइक सिटिंग फॉर मोर टाइम एंड लिसन। एनवायरनमेंट अच्छा नहीं है, आप देखो एनवायरनमेंट किस तरह से है, फर्नीचर किस तरह का है, कील लगी हुई है और आपको लग रहा है अभी लगी के लगी। दिस गिव्स द फीलिंग ऑफ अनकंफर्टेबल। तो ये भी चीज जो है आपकी कम्युनिकेशन को नॉन वर्बल, आप बार बार हिलोगे, राइट। वॉल्स का किस तरह का है कलर, इफ इट इज प्लीजिंग, अब बड़ा फेस रिलैक्स होता है, हाँ एनवायरनमेंट बहुत अच्छा है। बहुत गर्मी आ रही है, पसीने छूट रहे हैं, और जैसे कि हमारे स्टूडियो में ठंड लग रही है इनको, तो ये जो चीजें हैं दे अफेक्ट। अब जब ठंड ज्यादा लग रही है आप बार बार ऐसे करोगे, ठीक है। तो ये जो नॉन वर्बल वो सिग्नल्स आते हैं, ये सारी चीजें एनवायरनमेंट से भी रिलेटेड हैं। देन स्पेस क्लूज, say position in meetings indicate order of importance. तो कई चीजें स्पेस बोला कुछ नहीं है, पर जो सेंटर में होगा that person is the chairperson. जो बाकी सीनियर आएंगे वो आगे 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 होते जाएंगे. So nobody but this just the sitting arrangement tells us that how the senior people are sitting, how the persons are there. So point is, environmental factors also communicate non-verbally. Artifacts क्या होता है? आपकी dress. This includes clothing, jewelry, personal belongings, accessories and all that. So this also communicate. आप कहते हो जी फलाना जो टीचर है ना वो ब्रांडेड कपड़े पहनता है, क्या बोल दिया आपने? इकोनॉमिक लेवल क्या है भाई? परफ्यूम बड़े जबरदस्त होते हैं, कौन से है मुझे तो याद भी नहीं है, अरमानी का एंड ऑल दैट. तो वो जो है वो बोलते हैं. उसके ड्रेसिंग स्टाइल, अरे भाई क्या बड़ी सोफिस्टिकेटेड ड्रेसेस पहन, उसके कलर्स भाई देखने चाहिए कपड़ों के. तो ये जो चीजें हैं ना बोल के भी टीचर की बोल रही है. सो आर्टिफैक्ट्स में मैंने जैसे कहा क्लोथ. अब टीचर को किस तरह का क्लोथ पहनना चाहिए? टीचर को किस तरह के क्लोथ्स पहनने चाहिए? हाँ जी, टीचर को किस तरह के क्लोथ्स पहनने चाहिए? फीमेल टीचर्स को एक आवाज आई है, फीमेल टीचर्स को स्टूडियो से साड़ी पहननी चाहिए. मैंने तो नहीं पहनी हुई. क्या ओके, लेट मी हियर फ्रॉम दी सेंटर्स आल्सो. वैसे सेंटर में भी मुझे सारे सूट में दिखाई दे रहे हैं. एटलीस्ट गाजियाबाद में. हाँ जी, शुड वियर फॉर्मल. फॉर्मल को कैसे डिफाइन करेंगे? सूट भी आजकल तो फॉर्मल बन गया है. गुड कम अप. हाँ जी, साड़ी और सोबर लुक. साड़ी सोबर. मेल के लिए भी तो कुछ बोलो भाई. साड़ी और सूट. ओके, एंड लेट मी हियर फ्रॉम द मेल टीचर्स आल्सो. Okay, any other हाँ जी, sorry. They should be not. Sorry, I could not get you. They jeans. बिल्कुल ठीक कहा आपने. जो जीन्स है वो फॉर्मल ड्रेस में नहीं आती है. और टीचिंग प्रोफेशन में तो हम एडवांटेज ले लेते हैं, बट इन इफ यू गो टू द कंपनीज दे डोंट अलाउ, इवन इन इंडिया. बाहर भी ये अलाउ करते हैं. I think maybe in appearing interviews or appearing for the GDs, these things will be again discussed. तभी मैंने कहा कि चलो मैं टीचर पे फोकस करती हूँ. Of course, for ladies, the appropriate dress is the sari only, and for male members, it's trousers and shirt, and it also goes with the institution norms. कि institution क्या आपको कहती है. अब आती है बात ज्वेलरी की. कितनी एक्सेसिव ज्वेलरी पहनी जा सकती है? अब ये मिनिमल होनी चाहिए. ये नहीं कि आप बड़े बड़े, ये प्रॉब्लम तब आती है जब नई मैरिज हुई होती है और लड़कियों को पहनना पड़ता है. टीचिंग में हम फिर भी अलाउ कर देते हैं, पहन के आ जाते हैं. आई रिमेम्बर ए केस फॉर द कंपनी. ये इट्स ए लाइव एग्जांपल. तो शादी हुई तो कंपनी में कैसे जाएं वो बड़ा सा चूड़ा पहन के, तो उसने हैंकी बांध लिया. सो जितनी देर कंपनी में रहना वो हैंकी बांध के रखते थे. और बाद में एक ने क्या किया कि वो कहते हैं ना भी हमारे मीन्स इंडियन कल्चर में थोड़ा होता है कि भी इतने महीने नहीं उतारना एंड ऑल दैट. तो उन्होंने शगन के लिए कुछ रखे और बाकी, बिकॉज कंपनी वाले जो है ना वो थोड़े ज्यादा स्ट्रिक्ट होते हैं. तो टीचिंग प्रोफेशन में फिर भी चल जाता है, बट इन एनी केस जितनी हद तक जब तक हो सके ज्वेलरी जो है वो कम होनी चाहिए. आजकल तो मैंने देखा है बॉयज भी कानों में बालियां और मोटी सी चेन, राइट. तो वो जो चीजें हैं दैट डजंट गिव गुड सिग्नल. जब आप ही पहनेंगे तो आपके जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं वो तो पहनेंगे ही पहनेंगे। आप अगर एक वो छेद करवाते हैं तो वो 4 करवा के आ जाएंगे। इवन आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ द बॉयज, नॉट फॉर द गर्ल्स। देन इज द परफ्यूम। मैंने कहा ना अरमानी का पहना लगाया या कौन सा लगाया है। जब मैं इसकी एक रियल एग्जांपल बताती हूँ। कुछ साल पहले की बात है, एक पीएचडी स्टूडेंट किसी हमारे फैकल्टी कोलीग के पास आई और ऐसे लगा जैसे बाहर आ गई डिपार्टमेंट में। सो मैंने कहा भी इतना क्या, किस चीज का स्प्रे कर रही है, कौन सा परफ्यूम है ये। तो बाद में पता चला कि किसी साथ के कैबिन में कोई एक उनकी पीएचडी की स्टूडेंट गाइडेंस लेने आई है। अब देखो जो एक कई ओकेजन्स होते हैं, अगर आप पार्टी पे जा रहे हैं तो आप चाहे इससे भी स्ट्रॉन्ग परफ्यूम लगा के जा सकते हैं, बट व्हेन यू आर गोइंग टू द क्लास तो लो उसका मींस जो एक वैसा फ्रेग्रेंस वाला परफ्यूम रखना चाहिए if you are going into it. Then comes the lipstick, eyelashes, beauty aids. I have seen even in the teaching वो eyelashes और सब कुछ लगा लिया जाता है। That's not visible. And same is true for the boys also. ये नहीं कि आप खूब सारा परफ्यूम लगा के आ गए हैं। या even एक this is again is a real example of one of the very good institution जहाँ पे एक टीचर ऐसे करते हैं, खूब सारा तेल लगाया होता है और वो हर वक्त जिप करते रहते हैं। तो जो स्टूडेंट्स जब देखते हैं दे आर नॉट कंफर्टेबल। वो मतलब उसकी स्पीकिंग पे सुनने में कम जाते हैं और उसका इस तरह से जो है ना बन के आना वो उनको ज्यादा परेशान करता है। सो ये somebody shared with me the real example. तो अब कई टीचर जो ऐसे हैं जैसे स्पाइक्स बना के आ गए जी। तो ये जो चीजें हैं सारी ये नहीं होनी चाहिए इन टीचिंग प्रोफेशन। हाँ, अगर आप मैरिज पे जा रहे हैं या फैशन परेड पे हैं तो इट्स ओके। देन साइलेंस, कुछ ना बोलो पर बोल दो। तो कुछ ना बोलो और बोल दो में आता है। अब देखो मैंने कोई क्वेश्चन पूछा, आप उससे सहमत नहीं है। कई बार हम क्या करते हैं, हम ये नहीं कहते कि नहीं मैं तुम्हारे से एग्री नहीं करते। आप क्या करते हैं, आप चुप हो जाते हैं। अब वो क्या कहते हैं, आपको कर दिया ना कंफ्यूज। सोचो आप बैठ के कि सहमत है या नहीं है। सो ये जो चीज है दैट स्पीक्स। सो अगर मान लो आप क्लास में आए हैं और चुप करके खड़े हो जाते हैं, होता है कई बार। करते हो कभी आप ऐसे? कब करते हो आप? कब करते हो? जब बहुत शोर बड़ा हो रहा होता है क्लास में, आप एंटर करते हैं तो आप थोड़ी देर के लिए चुप खड़े हो जाते हैं। आपकी वो चुप्पी, आपने कोई नहीं कहा चुप हो जाओ, कुछ नहीं कहा आपने, पर आपकी प्रेजेंस और साइलेंस ने सब स्टूडेंट्स को मैसेज दे दिया टीचर इज हियर, सब चुप हो जाओ। और आपने कई बार देखा होगा, चुप बैठ जा, टीचर आ गया है, मैडम आ गए हैं, सर आ गए हैं, चुप बैठ जा। सो आपकी जो साइलेंस है वो भी कुछ बोल। देन दिस कैन बी डिसकन्फर्मिंग। जब होता है कि आपने कुछ पूछा और दूसरा पर्सन जवाब नहीं देता, देन यू फील अनकंफर्टेबल कि ये क्या हो रहा है, क्यों नहीं ये जवाब देता। सो दीज आर दी वेरियस थिंग्स। देन इज द टच, दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। अब जनरली जो टच करके, होल्ड करके या बैक कटिंग बहुत कॉमन है। अब ये फेवरेबल भी हो सकती है और अनफेवरेबल। जब स्टूडेंट को आप पैट करते हो बहुत खुश होता है, आप पीठ थपथपाते हो उसकी, बहुत खुश होता है स्टूडेंट आपका। सो टचिंग इज अप्रोप्रिएट एंड रीइंफोर्सिंग फॉर यंगर चिल्ड्रन। ये याद रहे, यंगर चिल्ड्रन बहुत एंजॉय करते हैं कि हाँ मुझे शाबाश पीठ थपथपाई टीचर। पर it's not good for the touching female students by the male teachers of higher classes. It's highly inappropriate, especially in the Asian countries, in India, like that. Even बाहर के countries में भी उसको इस चीज को बहुत openly नहीं लिया जाता कि जब आप adults को means by touch you express the feelings of even for good feelings. बहुत अच्छा किया और पैट कर दिया, you know. और कई लोगों को आदत होती है जब बात करनी है पैट करके करनी है, एंड दे स्टार्ट डूइंग इवन विद द कोलीग्स आल्सो, व्हिच इज नॉट एक्सेप्टेबल। तो ये जो चीजें हैं, अगर आप बाय यू आर नॉट इंटेंशनली, आई वुड से बट जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ योर हैबिट अगर आप कर रहे हैं, देन बी सेंसिटिव टू दीज थिंग्स, क्योंकि आजकल तो वैसे भी इन चीजों पे काफी आ रहा है। हाँ, अब हम आ जाते हैं, टाइम की बात हुई थी पहले, तो अब हम यूज ऑफ टाइम इन द क्लासरूम, ये टाइम कैसे बोलता है बताइएगा आप प्लीज। हाँ जी, एनीबॉडी, गाजियाबाद को सामने बिठा दिया है, और भी कोई सेक्टर करना चाहेगा इनफैक्ट? यूज ऑफ टाइम इन द क्लासरूम। हाँ जी, कुछ बोलता है? मैं एक एग्जांपल दे देती हूँ जिससे एक हिंट सा हो जाए। देखिए, सबसे पहले टाइम फॉर स्टूडेंट अटेंटिवनेस इन ए पीरियड। एक स्टूडेंट कितनी देर किसी चीज के लिए अटेंटिव रहता है? कितनी देर के लिए? हाँ जी, सॉरी, वेरी गुड, वेरी गुड। पर मैं तो इसको नॉन वर्बल कंटेक्स्ट में थोड़ा सा ले रही हूँ। फैकल्टी का तो है, जितने आप अच्छे अच्छे पढ़ाएंगे, फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन अच्छे होंगे, कंटेंट बढ़िया देंगे, एग्जांपल्स बहुत देंगे, तो आप थोड़ा टाइम बढ़ा देंगे, फिर भी कोई रेंज होगी। 30 to 40 बहुत ज्यादा है, बहुत ज्यादा कर दिया आपने। हार्डली 15-20 मिनट होता है, उसके बाद आपको फिर कुछ करना पड़ता है, फिलर देना पड़ता है, ठीक है। सो यू शुड टेक केयर ऑफ दिस थिंग कि मेरे स्टूडेंट रफली इतनी देर है, तो मैंने क्या किस तरह से उनके दिमाग में चीजें डालनी है। अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम स्पेंट ऑन ए सर्टेन टॉपिक। आपको जी एमई का थीसिस में था ये चीज, आपको तो टॉपिक बहुत अच्छी तरह आता है। आप क्या करते हो? सिलेबस में लिखा है 2 घंटे, आप कहते हो मैं तो 3 घंटे पढ़ाएंगे हम, तो भाई टॉपिक आता बहुत है। अब आपने स्टूडेंट को क्या मैसेज दे दिया? क्या मैसेज दिया कि ये जो है ना सेशनल में आएगा ही आएगा, और सेशनल में चाहे आप दे भी, सेशनल में दे देते हो, फाइनल में नहीं आएगा। पर आपकी ये जो टाइम टेकन इन टीचिंग एनी टॉपिक जो लिया आपने, दैट हैज गिवन मैसेज टू द स्टूडेंट। और कोई तरीका है जिससे टाइम और ये चीज रिलेट हो रही हो आपकी, टाइम और क्लासरूम में हो रहा हो? एनीथिंग? एनीबॉडी फ्रॉम दिल्ली? हाँ जी, ये बालाजी से। हाँ जी, हाँ जी, आप बताएं, एनी पर्सन फ्रॉम हियर? हाँ जी, टाइम कुछ आपके मतलब जिस तरह से आप पढ़ाते हैं और टाइम यूज करते हैं, क्या वो कुछ कन्वे करता है? सोनिया बताएंगी। देखिए, गुड गुड एफर्ट, आई अप्रिशिएट योर एफर्ट ऑफ थिंकिंग। शी इज सेइंग कि 5 मिनट तकरीबन साइलेंस के होने चाहिए, अराउंड 10 मिनट्स शी सेड फॉर द नॉन वर्बल। अब मैं आती हूँ इस पे। देखिए, जो भी नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन है वो ओरल से अलग नहीं है, ठीक है। आप ऐसे नहीं कह सकते हो कि जी 10 मिनट मैंने नॉन वर्बल के लिए रख दी और आप इशारे करो। नो, दैट इज इंटीग्रेटेड इन योर सेशन। तो आप ये नहीं कह सकते हो, क्योंकि आप कहते हो ना कि 30 मिनट्स पढ़ाना है, तो आप 30 मिनट्स जेस्चर्स नॉन वर्बल करते जा रहे हो, इसको कोई सेपरेट टाइम नहीं दे सकते, पहली बात। दूसरी बात, आपने कहा साइलेंस, आपने तो साइलेंस को बहुत टाइम दे दिया, 5 मिनट कह दिए। साइलेंस 1 सेकंड की भी परेशान कर देती है। मैं अब यहाँ चुप करके खड़ी हो गई, आप कहोगे कब बोलेगी कब बोलेंगे, सामने खड़े हैं ये जी। सॉरी, पूरे लेक्चर में। हाँ, आप अगर ये कहते हो कि पॉज दिया है तो वो साइलेंस पीरियड है, तो हो सकता है वो 1-2 मिनट हो जाए। पर अदरवाइज अगर आप कहो कि किसी एक इंडिविजुअल को आप टाइम दे रहे हो, दैट्स नॉट वेरी गुड, इट्स देन राइट। स्टोरी सुनाना जो है ना, वो तो स्टोरी सुनाते वक्त जो आप नॉन वर्बल कर रहे हो ना, तो वो ओरल और वर्बल ये आप ना अलग नहीं चलेगी जब तक मैं टोटली नॉन वर्बल पे ना आऊं। जैसे मैं सिर्फ सिग्नल से बात करूं जैसे, तो आपको पता चल गया कि मैं क्या कह रही हूँ, वेल डन, ठीक है, मैं बोली नहीं कुछ भी। आप कई बार डिस्टर्स भी होते हो तो बोल नहीं सकते हो, बता नहीं सकते हो, आप जस्ट जेस्चर करते हो, सिग्नल देते हो, एंड द अदर पर्सन आप कहते हो उर्रा, तो वो उसको दिखता है कि हाँ मेरे ये पर्सन खुश है, आप ऐसे वेव करते हो, ठीक है, तो बोलता नहीं है। पर जब हम क्लास में पढ़ा रहे हैं तो हम इंडिविजुअली किसी नॉन वर्बल को टाइम नहीं देते हैं, सच वो हमारे लेक्चर में इट्स इंटरवोवन इन आवर लेक्चर, राइट। मैं एक इसी ये कौन सा सेंटर था परमजीत, बालाजी, इस यहाँ से, अच्छा नॉर्दर्न इंडिया से एक मैडम, सॉरी शी वाज ऑन द फ्रंट सीट, तो कुछ कहना चाह रही थी वो, आई एम सॉरी, मैं इंट्रैक्शन इधर होनी, हाँ शी स्टिल वांट्स टू, चले गए, ओके। सो देन द टाइम गिवन टू स्टूडेंट फॉर रिस्पॉन्डिंग टू क्वेश्चन, आप कहते हैं ओके सोनिया आप बताओ, और सोनिया खड़ी हुई नहीं, और मैं कहती हूँ नहीं इसको नहीं आता, चलो जी आप बताओ। आई हैव नॉट गिवन द अप्रोप्रिएट टाइम टू हर। देन इट्स नॉट गुड टू इंट्रोड्यूस ए न्यू मटेरियल एट द एंड ऑफ द क्लास पीरियड। आपको सब्जेक्ट तो आता नहीं है, आप कहते चलो खीरे 5 मिनट में ना गोल मोल करके पढ़ा देंगे, दिस गिव्स दैट सिग्नल, दिस सिग्नल टू द स्टूडेंट। सो एंड के 5 मिनट में नया टॉपिक लेके मत बोल बैठ। हाँ ये आप कह सकते हो कि ओके टुमारो वी विल बी स्टार्टिंग न्यू चैप्टर एंड दिस रिलेट्स टू दिस, इट्स ओके। पर आप ये सोचो कि नया चैप्टर 5 मिनट में पढ़ाया और खत्म किया, वो उसको तवज्जो स्टूडेंट लर्निंग पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से वो इतनी अटेंशन नहीं देगा, वो कहेगा ये तो अनइम्पोर्टेंट सा ऐसे सही है। सो दिस गिव्स दैट टाइप ऑफ सिग्नल। देन द टाइम ओरिएंटेशन, ये टाइम क्लास में तो नहीं मैं कहूंगी है, बट इट्स रिलेटेड टू द टाइम ओरिएंटेशन इज यू कैन से there are 2 types of students. One are the not students, everybody I would say. One is the sparrow और दूसरे हैं all type. अब आप में से कितने हैं जो सुबह से उठ के पढ़ने लग पड़ते हैं अपनी स्टूडेंट लाइफ में, या टीचर भी बन के आपकी डे एक्टिविटी कब शुरू हो जाती है? अर्ली इन द मॉर्निंग। किस वक्त आप ज्यादा फ्रेश होके पढ़ते हैं? इन द मॉर्निंग टाइम। मेरे को स्टूडियो से तो मॉर्निंग टाइम आया, आपका भी मॉर्निंग टाइम है, ओके। व्हाट अबाउट द सेंटर्स? हाँ जी, मॉर्निंग 6 o'clock, ओके। कौन है जो रात को पढ़ते हैं, दिन सुबह नहीं पढ़ सकते? ज्यादा है आजकल, वैसे मुझे लगता है जनरेशन में चेंज आ रहा है। हाँ जी, हाँ जी मैडम आपने कुछ कहना चाह रही है? नहीं वो माइक लेके कुछ कहना चाह रही थी। हाँ जी, हाँ जी मैडम आप बताइएगा। बिरला टेक्निकल ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट पिलानी।
हेलो,
हाँ जी आपके हाथ में माइक है। आई थॉट यू आर वांट टू शेयर समथिंग। ओके अब कई लोग, हाँ जी वो, अच्छा ओके, हाँ जी बताइएगा।
And the teacher is conducting the lecture in the class. Even some of the students are very interested and some of them are running away from the classes. What is the reason behind this? Even though
रीजन का तो देखो, रीजन तो बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं। ओरल कम्युनिकेशन पे भी बात हो चुकी है कि स्पीकर अपना लेक्चर किस तरह से इंटरेस्टिंग बनाएगा, उसमें काफी बातें जिक्र हो चुका होगा कि आप एग्जांपल्स देते हैं, स्टोरी सुनाते हैं, डेली लाइफ से रिलेट करते हैं कंसेप्ट्स को, ठीक है। आजकल और भी कई नए मेथड्स आ गए हैं जिससे आप क्लासरूम टीचिंग ज्यादा इंटरेक्टिव कर सकते हो। स्टूडेंट्स को देखो, जितनी चीजें आप बोलोगे स्टूडेंट भूल जाएगा जब आप सिर्फ स्टूडेंट सुनता रहेगा। पर अगर आप स्टूडेंट को किसी एक्टिविटी में लगा लेते हो और वो खुद इंटरेक्ट करके चीजें निकालता है, तो उसकी जो रिटेंशन है, अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, वो लॉन्गर टाइम के लिए। हमारे जो क्लासरूम्स हैं वहाँ पे ज्यादा लेक्चर्स चलते हैं, हम डे पढ़ाते हैं 50 मिनट्स लगे रहते हैं, स्टूडेंट को मौका तक नहीं देते कि वो कोई क्वेश्चन पूछे हमसे। तो जितनी आप क्लासरूम में अगर लेक्चर्स भी लेते हैं, जितना आप स्टूडेंट से क्वेश्चंस पूछोगे या छोटे ग्रुप्स बना के इंटरेक्शन करवाओगे, उतनी ही स्टूडेंट का इंटरेस्ट बढ़ेगा और स्टूडेंट फिर आपके थोड़े लंबे लेक्चर्स में भी आपको सुनेगा। जो लोग नहीं इंटरेस्टेड होते, आप उनको इंटरेस्टिंग बना सकते हैं इस तरह से। पर हम जो बात मैं अभी कर रही थी, इज इट क्लियर? लेट मी फर्स्ट फिनिश इट, देन आई कम टू माय अर्लियर टॉपिक। हाँ जी, आप इज इट क्लियर टू यू? इनका सेंटर कौन सा है? हाँ जी, बीटीटीआई पिलानी से एम आई क्लियर? हैव यू हर्ड मी?
Yes.
Okay, so is it clear? I can go ahead. Okay, टाइम ओरिएंटेशन की मैं अभी बात कर रही थी। पहले काफी पेरेंट्स, ज्यादा आज भी मैं कहूँगी कई ऐसे पेरेंट्स हैं जो दोज हु फील कि सुबह सुबह उठ के अगर पढ़ लो 5 बजे लाइक दैट तो याद रहता है, और अगर रात को पढ़ो तो वो हमारा माइंड फ्रेश नहीं होता। बट इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट, इट्स द मीन्स इंडिविजुअल ओरिएंटेशन एक बन जाती है। कई स्टूडेंट्स हैं, कई टीचर्स हैं जो अर्ली मॉर्निंग ज्यादा फ्रेश फील करते हैं और उस वक्त जो याद पढ़ते हैं वो याद रहता है। देयर आर पीपल, देयर आर स्टूडेंट्स, देयर आर टीचर्स जो कि रात को ज्यादा बैठ सकते हैं। आई गिव माय ओन एग्जांपल, मुझे रात को 2 बजे तक पढ़ा लो, आई एम वेरी फ्रेश। और अगर कोई मेरे को कहे कि सुबह 4 बजे उठ के पढ़ना है तो मैं 6 बजे तक सोती रहूंगी किताब की। सो इट डिपेंड्स ऑन द इंडिविजुअल, सो देयर इज नो मीन्स परफेक्ट स्टाइल इन दैट। सो ये जो ओरिएंटेशंस हैं, दे हैव टेकन इट एज द स्पैरो टाइप जो अर्ली राइजर्स हैं, एंड द ऑल टाइप जो रात को ज्यादा एक्टिवली मीन्स अपना ब्रेन फ्रेश रख सकते हैं। So you have to take care of this, but it is not, of course, related with the classroom. It's otherwise a non-verbal type of message. Then classroom sitting dynamics. अब ये बात हुई थी अभी क्लास के शुरू में, लेक्चर के शुरू में। There are front row people. They like the action and grade conscious होते हैं स्टूडेंट्स आपके, जो फर्स्ट रो में बैठे हैं। नॉन वर्बल है, बस बैठना ही बता रहा है कि हम कौन है। आप देखेंगे कि इनका फेस, तभी वो जो एक मैडम ने बताया था, शिखा थी, आई फॉरगॉट इट, जो कह रहे थे कि मैंने तो सिर्फ फर्स्ट वालों को ही देखा, फर्स्ट रो वालों को। अब उनका आई कांटेक्ट बड़ा सही था पहले लेक्चर के हिसाब से, क्योंकि फर्स्ट रो जो है वो आपको हर सिग्नल देगी कि दे आर गेटिंग यू। वो हाँ जी करेंगे, आप खुश हो जाएंगे, आप और खुश से और पढ़ाएंगे, जोश आपका बढ़ेगा। तो दैट वाज राइट इन द फर्स्ट लेक्चर। सारे लेक्चर्स के लिए ये ठीक नहीं है। एज यू मैच्योर, ट्राई टू गो टू द अदर्स। अब मैं दूसरों की भी बातें बताती हूँ। बैक पर्सन, ये है स्लैकर्स। दे डोंट लाइक कि हमें अटेंशन मिले, हम ऐसे ही ठीक है। दे लाइक सिक्योरिटी ऑफ द बैक, पीछे मैसेज भेज लेंगे, ठीक है, चाहे आजकल मोबाइल अलाउड नहीं है पर फिर भी थोड़ा बहुत हम ऐसा कुछ कर लेंगे। वो मोबाइल नहीं तो पर्ची भेज लेंगे। सो दे वांट कि हम बैक पे ठीक है। कई बार मैंने देखा है, मैं स्टूडियो में कई बार स्टूडेंट्स आते हैं वो पीछे बैठते हैं, मैंने कहा पीछे क्यों बैठते हो, आप आगे आओ। एंड आई हैव सीन, यू माइट हैव आल्सो सीन, स्कूल्स में ये चीजें बहुत कंपल्सरी हो गई हैं। स्कूल्स में वो क्या करते हैं, रोटेशन करते हैं कि हर पर्सन को, हर स्टूडेंट को पीछे भी जाना पड़ेगा, वो आगे कभी सीट्स में बैठे। So then there are by window, कई होते हैं खिड़की की जगह पसंद करते हैं, विंडो साइड पे बैठना है। वो क्या करते हैं, ये डे ड्रीमर्स हैं। नहीं, डे ड्रीमर्स हैं, खिड़की में देखेंगे, अच्छा वो हो रहा है बाहर, अच्छा लगता है। Then there are डोर के पास, ये है जो आप कह रहे हैं भागने वाले। ये चाहते हैं कि कब टीचर बोर्ड को देखे, अटेंडेंस तो लग गई है और कब हम भाग लें। अब देखो, सिटिंग अरेंजमेंट बोल रहा है। मिडिल वाले क्या करते हैं, एक मिक्सचर सा है ना, तो जब असाइनमेंट नहीं करके आएंगे तो हम दिखे भी ना, ठीक है, जब किया तो हाथ खड़ा कर ही देंगे। सो ये ना मिक्सचर सा, एवरेज टाइप सा रिस्पॉन्स देना। सो दिस इज द साइकोलॉजी which is towards the non-verbal behavior of various persons in the class. अब अगर टीचर को इस चीज का पता है तो टीचर कैन यूज इट फॉर इम्प्रूविंग दी non-verbal behavior of the students, for improving the teaching. आप कुछ ना कुछ करते रहो कि कभी किसी को डोर के पास हो और कभी कोई, आप डोर के पास सबसे इंटेलिजेंट स्टूडेंट बिठा दो, ना भागे ना भागने देगा. So you can use the psychology of the student for improving your things. अब लास्ट आ गया है, मैं जान के टाइम के बाद लाई हूँ हैंडशेक को, क्योंकि हैंडशेक ऐसा क्लासरूम में नहीं आएगा, but with your colleagues and with the persons visiting your institution, you may have the handshake. So this should be आपने देखा होगा कई तो बड़े ढीले से हाथ मिलाते हैं, कईयों का हाथ काफी फर्म होता है, पर इतना फर्म भी ना करो कि बेचारे की हड्डी टूट जाए, राइट? तो बी केयरफुल फॉर द हैंडशेक. देन थंब एंड फोर फिंगर पूरा अच्छी तरह नहीं करते हैं, सिर्फ बस 2 उंगलियों से ही हैंडशेक हो रहा होता है. इट्स नॉट ए गुड थिंग. आप देख तो उस तरफ रहे हो और हाथ ऐसे मिला रहे हो, नॉट ए गुड थिंग. जब आप किसी को वेलकम ही कर रहे हो हैंडशेक करके तो अच्छा आई कांटेक्ट भी रखो भाई. गिव ए कपल ऑफ शेक्स. ये मैं बड़ा हैरान होती थी कि ये कईयों आदत क्यों होती है कि करते रहते हैं. अब समझ आई कि इट गिव्स ए गुड साइन. जब आप थोड़ी देर हैंडशेक लॉन्ग और लेके जाते हो, इट्स ए गुड थिंग. पर छोड़ो भी ना, इट शुड नॉट बी लाइक दैट. छोड़ भी दो उसको, पकड़े ना रखो. देन स्टैंड अप व्हेन हैंडशेकिंग. हम क्या करते हैं, बैठे बैठे नहीं कर सकते. आप कुर्सी पे बैठ के हैंडशेक कर रहे हैं, उठना क्या, छोड़ो परा, नहीं, ऐसे नहीं होता हैंडशेक. जब आप किसी को वेलकम करते हो, देन इट्स ए कल्चर दैट इट्स ए रिस्पेक्ट you give to the other person. So interpret how is your handshake. हो सकता है वुमेन को नहीं ये करना होता होगा, पर मेल मेंबर्स कैन एनालाइज देयर वे ऑफ हैंडशेकिंग. ऐसा हैंडशेक नहीं होना चाहिए. the one which is shown here, वो ये वाला थंब एंड फोर फिंगर वाला, सिर्फ 2 उंगलियों को लेके आप हैंडशेक करते हैं, that's not a good sign. So then I take some regulators when we are communicating with others. जब आप नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन में साइंस किस तरह से आते हैं, जब आप हेड टिल्टिंग करते हैं, व्हाट साइंस यू आर गिविंग टू द लिसनर स्पीकर, क्या आप करते जाओ. नॉड्स है, आई कांटेक्ट है. जब आप किसी से, आपसे कोई बात कर रहा है और आप देखते नहीं हो उसको, वो क्या करेगा, कम्युनिकेशन खत्म कर देगा, कहता है ये तो इंटरेस्टेड ही नहीं है, छोड़ो, इससे बात नहीं करते हैं. सो लाइकवाइज रेगुलेटर्स गिव्स यू द साइन दैट यू वांट टू कंटिन्यू. आप सामान इकट्ठा करके चल पड़े, दैट गिव्स द साइन कि खत्म करो बात. आपका फेशियल एक्सप्रेशन बताता है कि मैं इंटरेस्टेड हूं और बताओ. सो जब आप चुप हो जाते हो तो आप कहते हैं हाँ आप बताते जाओ. सो दिस गिव्स साइंस, नॉन वर्बल थिंग्स गिव साइन. ये क्या कहता है बताओ भाई, अब आप कुछ पहचानो, ये क्या कह रहे हैं, नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन है, ये क्या कह रहा है. आई हैव नॉट टेकन टेस्ट्स इन दिस सेशन. ये इसका क्या मतलब है, विनिंग. ओके, ये क्या कह रहा है स्टूडेंट, वाह, बड़ी हैरानी हो रही है. हाउ, ओके, ये वेलकमिंग. सो खुश है, आपको वेलकम कर रहा है और मैं आपको बाय कह रही हूँ. इफ यू हैव एनी क्वेश्चंस यू कैन आस्क. हाँ जी, एनी क्वेश्चंस प्लीज. Thank you. So any questions? मुझे लगता है एक कहावत है, जब भूख लगी हो तो कुछ भी ऐसा नहीं है कुछ. गुड आफ्टरनून. ओके, थैंक यू. हाँ जी.
You have told regarding para language.
Yes.
So I have thought that para language is people when they're talking fast, they're making some kind of expression.
पैरा लैंग्वेज में सब कुछ आ जाता है. अगर आपको याद होगा पैरा लैंग्वेज में मैंने काफी दिखाया था, इवन लाफिंग, पिच, वो सारी उसी का पार्ट बन के आ रही थी। टोन, ये सारी चीजें पैरा लैंग्वेज का पार्ट है। ओके, जैसे मैंने कहा ये भी पैरा लैंग्वेज का पार्ट है। क्या इसको आप ओरल कहोगे? जब आप बोलते हुए आर्टिकुलेशन में पॉज देते हो, वो जो पॉज है ना, वो पैरा लैंग्वेज, समझ गए? पॉज है ना, जो वो स्पीकिंग स्किल है, जरूर है, क्योंकि जो पैरा लैंग्वेज है ना, इट इज ए पार्ट ऑफ योर स्पीकिंग स्किल। काफी कुछ वहां पे डिस्कस हुआ होगा, मैंने उसको देखो, आपको मैंने इस पे ज्यादा फोकस नहीं किया है। रीजन यही था कि आई नो इट कि जो पैरा लैंग्वेज के कई एस्पेक्ट्स हैं। जैसे मैंने कहा ना कि जब आप डरे होते हैं तो किस तरह बोलते हैं, ठीक है? जब आप मीन्स थोड़ा उदास है तो आवाज में वो चीज मोनोटोन हो जाते हैं, धीरे से बोलते हैं। पर ये जो स्पीकिंग स्किल की तरफ से भी ये चीज आती है, तो मैंने इसीलिए पैरा लैंग्वेज आई अंडरस्टैंड कि काफी चीज डिस्कस हो चुकी थी। जैसे आपने कहा ना, ये जो है ना, ये आवाज जो आई है गले से, या मैं कहती हूँ जैसे ये इरिटेंट्स है ये ओरल कम्युनिकेशन नहीं है। तो ये पैरा लैंग्वेज जो है, इट इज ओवरलैपिंग विद योर स्पीकिंग स्किल। पॉज जब दिया आपने, उस वक्त आप कुछ बोल नहीं रहे थे, पर दैट इज ए वे टू बी ए गुड स्पीकर, जब आप प्रॉपर पॉज देते हैं। पर ये पैरा लैंग्वेज, ये नॉन वर्बल में इसीलिए कुछ चीजें इसकी ओवरलैप हो जाती है। हाँ जी, हाँ जी, very good, very good, very nicely said, very rightly added. Thank you, thank you. ठीक है, थैंक यू। यू हैव वेरी वेल सेड कि मैंने पूरी इसमें द टाइप ऑफ शूज जो पहनने हैं, इट्स फॉर नॉट ओनली फॉर द लेडीज, इट्स फॉर द मेन आल्सो, कि आप शूज पहन के आए जो आवाजें निकाल रहे हैं। या यू माइट हैव सीन बॉयज वियरिंग स्पोर्ट्स शूज इन द क्लासरूम, वो भी ठीक नहीं है, फॉर्मल शूज होने चाहिए। लाइकवाइज फॉर द फीमेल्स आल्सो, जो सैंडल है दैट शुड बी कंफर्टेबल। पेंसिल हील पहन के आए और बैलेंस अपना बन नहीं रहा, दैट टू इज नॉट गुड। तो पर इसके साथ, हेलो, यू वांट टू से समथिंग? So such things also should be taken care of in the non-verbal communication. Thank you for adding this thing. Anything else? But the last thing which you have mentioned from Delhi, so she has added that how we plan and how we keep manage the time in that. Actually, I have referred to the time in this session which relates to the non-verbal type of communication. Say the time you spend in teaching any topic. So how you plan it for the whole session, that is say 55 minutes, this much time for introductory, this much time for this we take in the planning for, and that includes both the things, speaking, oral, and as well as the verbal and non-verbal communication both. Whereas my focus was only the the use of time in the classroom which relates to your non-verbal, which gives some signals related to the non-verbal information which you are conveying to your students through your usage of time in the classroom. Thank you, everybody. If you have more questions, you are most welcome. Otherwise, we wind up the. Hanji, please. Hanji. Hanji. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, friends, on behalf of all the participants, I also like to place on record thanks to ma'am for taking such an interesting session. And we understand that non-verbal communication is so important, and how non-verbal communication can be applied into classroom situations also. She has taken very, very apt examples on that. Thank you so much, ma'am. Just before we go for the lunch, a few announcements. Number one is that some of the centers like Ganga Technical Institute, Bahadurgarh, JEC Jaipur, RIEIT Rail Majra, JCDM Sirsa, Maharshi Arvind College, they have not still submitted their list of participants. Kindly submit their list of participants, type list of participants by today evening. Otherwise, it will be very difficult for us to, issue the certificates and all. Number two is that some of the centers are not keeping the cameras towards the audience. Especially, I have seen. I'm trying to find out who are there in the Ganga Technical Campus. Unka camera hamesha. Yes, you see the camera where the camera is focusing at. It's focusing on the banner only, or on the towards the roof. Kindly put the camera towards the audience so that we can interact with the audience. The coordinator at Ganga Technical Institute, Dr. Rajesh Sharma. Probably nobody is there even. Anyways, I will request all the coordinators to make sure that the cameras are towards the audience so that we can interact. The speaker like to interact with the audience during the sessions. And now we will go for the lunch. It is 1:15 already, so we will reassemble at 2:15. I give you 1 hour break. We have a very interesting session after the break, that is on presentation skills, how to make the presentation effective. This is one of the, I would say, session which is directly related to the teachers, and it is going to be very, very elaborate session. So we join at 2:15. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, ma'am.